Former Nepal Army General Balananda Sharma sworn in as the country's new Foreign Affairs Minister. Cabinet expands to 15 members. Nepal steps up political dialogue ahead of the parliamentary elections. Government spokesperson's effort aimed at ensuring free and fair polls. Severe cold and dense fog grip southern Nepal. Daily life disrupted and affecting children, elderly and farmers. U.S. military targets Islamic State in northwest Nigeria. Joint operation aims to curb militant activities along Niger border. Former Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak found guilty in corruption trial. 25 charges linked to $569 million corruption case. And Tribhuvan Army and Nepal Police Clubs open women's campaign with straight set wins at the 9th Nepal Volleyball Championship in Kathmandu. Good evening, I'm Vijata Bhandari and this is NTV World Primetime News, coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours. Across the globe, it is 1:15 p.m. in London, 10:15 p.m. in Tokyo, and just after midnight in Sydney. Now, the news in detail. Former Nepal Army General Balananda Sharma has been sworn in as the country's new Minister for Foreign Affairs. President Ramchandra Paudel administered the oath of office on the recommendation of Prime Minister Sushila Karki. Sharma, who previously served as a senior commander in the Nepal Army, was appointed earlier today following a cabinet recommendation by the Prime Minister. The oath-taking ceremony was held at the President's office in Kathmandu. The appointment brings a former military leader into a key civilian diplomatic role at a time when Nepal is heading to fresh elections on March 5 next year. Nepal's government has intensified consultations with leaders of the country's major political parties as it seeks to build consensus and ensure a smooth run-up to the parliamentary elections scheduled for February 21. Minister for Communications and Information Technology Jagdish Kharel held separate meetings with Nepali Congress President Sher Bahadur Deuba, CPN-UML Chairman KP Sharma Oli, and Nepal Communist Party Coordinator Pushpa Kamal Dahal today. At a meeting at Deuba's residence in Kathmandu, the former Prime Minister confirmed that the Nepali Congress has already decided to take part in the elections and has begun preparations. He emphasized that elections remain the party's top priority and called on the government to guarantee a free and fair electoral process, according to Minister Kharel. The minister later met KP Sharma Oli at his residence, where discussions focused on the current political situation and preparations for the upcoming vote. Talks were also held with Pushpa Kamal Dahal at his home, centering on maintaining national consensus and ensuring the successful conduct of the elections. The government says it is actively engaging with all major political forces to create a stable political environment and to ensure that the House of Representatives elections are held on schedule and in a credible manner. As Nepal prepares for parliamentary elections on March 5, the Election Commission has proposed a comprehensive code of conduct aimed at ensuring the polls are free, fair and dignified. The guidelines currently under consultation cover a wide range of actors beyond political parties and candidates. According to the Commission, the code applies fully to federal and provincial ministers, constitutional bodies and their office bearers, government agencies at all levels, and officials of federal, provincial and local governments. Local municipal executives and members, as well as employees of semi-government and public institutions, are also included. Moreover, the code extends to security agencies, media organizations, educational institutions and their staff, election representatives, counting agents, voters, and even development partners involved in government or semi-government projects. The Election Commission has also proposed that private sector institutions, including banks, cooperatives, businesses, and their employees, follow the code. Severe cold, dense fog and harsh winter winds are disrupting daily life across southern Nepal's Tarai region, affecting districts such as Rohtahat and Mahottari. Residents of Rohtahat have been facing severe disruptions as dense fog and plunging temperatures continue to affect the region. Thick morning fog and frost have made it difficult for people to leave their homes. Children, the elderly, daily wage workers, and economically vulnerable communities are among the most affected. Local farmers report that extreme cold is hindering work in the fields, while laborers struggle to carry out routine tasks. Transportation has also been impacted, with reduced visibility causing delays and challenges for vehicles. Elsewhere in nearby Mahottari district, locals there experienced similar winter weather conditions in the wake of a cold wave. Since mid-December, residents of the district headquarters Jaleshwar and surrounding areas have struggled with severe cold, dense fog, frost and harsh winds. Daily routines have become increasingly difficult, especially for children, the elderly and vulnerable populations. Farmers report that winter crops, pulses and vegetables are beginning to rot due to the cold, while livestock and poultry are also affected. Dr. Bikash Saha, chief at Jaleshwar Provincial Hospital, said that 150 to 200 patients visit daily for cold-related illnesses. Movement in both urban and rural areas has slowed down, though local markets report rising sales of woolen clothing. We will take a short break here. More news coming up. Continuing on, Nepal observed the 5th National Senior Citizens Day today under the theme Our Shared Mission, Respect and Honor for Senior Citizens. The day commemorates the start of the government's monthly allowance program for senior citizens in 2051 Bikram Sambat. Individuals aged 60 and above are recognized as senior citizens. The 2078 census reports about 10% of Nepal's population, or roughly 3 million people, fall into this category. Despite government initiatives, many elderly face challenges, including physical, economic, familial, and mental abuse. Some senior citizens without family support are forced to live in government-run free old age homes, while those in remote areas often lack access to such facilities. Advocates emphasize that senior citizens are living history and deserve protection, but many end up alone in old age homes, temples, public spaces, or on streets. The condition of elderly people in Nepal is a mixed reality. As the population is growing, they face challenges like social isolation, inadequate health care, and economic hardships, despite government allowances. As the country marks Day dedicated to senior citizens, our Siraha correspondent Shyam Kumar Thakur looks into the plight of an elderly couple in Mirchaya. Rojina Rai brings it to you.
Prameswar Saha and Binda Devi Saha, an elderly couple from the southern part of Nepal, Siraha Mirchaya, embody the struggle faced by many in their twilight years. Once daily wage workers, they now live childless, relying solely on the miserly state-rendered old age allowance. Each day brings new challenges. Their bodies weakened by age and illness struggle with even the simplest household task. Tears in Binda Devi's eyes speaks volumes. Their bodies can no longer support them, just like the age-old roof over their heads. Their fragile hot legs during the rains, often forcing them to sleep on the floor. Life grows harder with each passing day, and without care or support, survival seems uncertain for the sexagenarians. At times, one lies on a bed while the other must sleep on the ground, with an unsafe and open toilet nearby. With little food and no basic necessities, their fight for survival is ongoing. Their story is a stark reminder to the government and the authorities concerned to extend more support to vulnerable elderly across the country. The struggle of Parmeshwar and Binda Devi are not isolated. Studies show that 35 to 65% of elderly people face neglect and mistreatment within their families and communities. The story reflects a deeper societal issue: how we care for those who can no longer care for themselves. It is a call for compassion, action, and dignity for our elders, a reminder of our shared responsibility to ensure that the most vulnerable among us are not forgotten.
Moving on, flooding along the Adikola River has increasingly threatened farmland and local livelihoods in Nepal's Syangja district. Each rainy season, the river's erosion sweeps away fertile fields, placing both agriculture and the traditional way of The United States military says it carried out air and missile strikes against Islamic State targets in northwestern Nigeria on Christmas Day. The Pentagon released a video on social media showing a missile launch from a U.S. naval vessel, describing the operation aimed at IS militants operating in the region. In a post on Truth Social, President Donald Trump claimed the strikes were powerful and deadly, and said there would be further attacks if militants continued killing Christians in Nigeria. Nigerian authorities have not publicly commented on the reported strikes, and independent verifications remains limited. Islamic State-linked groups have been active in parts of Nigeria for years, carrying out attacks on civilians, security forces, and religious communities. A Malaysian court has convicted former Prime Minister Najib Razak of abuse of power and money laundering in his second major trial over the multi-billion-dollar 1MDB state fund scandal. Najib, 72, was found guilty on 4 counts of abuse of power and 21 counts of money laundering involving nearly 2.3 billion ringgit or $569 million, though his sentence has not yet been announced. He is already serving a prison term from a previous 1MDB conviction in 2020, when he was sentenced for embezzlement and money laundering linked to SRC International, a former 1MDB unit. The latest verdict comes after 7 years of legal proceedings, which included testimony from 76 witnesses and follows the court's earlier rejection of Najib's bid for house arrest. Despite his convictions, Najib retains strong support from some Malaysians, while Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and anti-corruption campaigners have stressed the need to respect the court's decisions and strengthen public institutions to prevent future corruption scandals. Heavy rain has triggered flash flooding across parts of Southern California, causing damage on the eve of Christmas. Emergency crews responded in the mountain community of Wrightwood, where floodwaters and debris engulfed cars and inundated streets. Authorities also issued warnings of possible debris flows, particularly in areas recently scarred by wildfires, where soil is more vulnerable, and landslides. Further north, strong storms brought down trees and blocked roads in San Francisco. Officials are urging residents to remain cautious as unstable weather conditions continue to affect the region. Countries hit by the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami today remembered the devastating disaster that claimed tens of thousands of lives across the region. Marking the 21st anniversary, Nations are paying tribute to those lost while highlighting the importance of disaster preparedness and community resilience. In Thailand, southern provinces observed the anniversary with multi-religious remembrance services across Phuket, Phang Nga and Krabi. At Phuket's Mike House Cemetery, families of victims from 43 nations gathered to lay flowers and perform Buddhist, Christian and Islamic rites. In Sri Lanka, the anniversary was commemorated as National Safety Day to emphasize disaster preparedness and public awareness. The main ceremony took place in Peralia, Gale, one of the hardest hit areas, with a 2-minute silence observed nationwide. The commemorations across the region shows the enduring impact of the tsunami and the ongoing importance of the preparedness and resilience in countries vulnerable to natural disasters. More international news and sports update up next. In Gaza, families held a funeral for 25 people whose remains were recovered more than 2 years after they were buried under the rubble. Civil defense teams and local residents recovered the skeletal remains, which had been trapped since past conflicts, leaving little to identify the victims. Abdul Hamid Al-Astal, present at the ceremony, said it was impossible to distinguish boys from girls or men from women among the remains. The funeral underscores the long-lasting human toll of Gaza's repeated cycles of conflict and the challenges faced by families seeking closure. Authorities and aid workers continue efforts to locate and recover those still missing under the debris across the region. Cambodia has submitted its 6th draft proposal to Thailand, bringing the two countries closer to a formal border security agreement. The move follows 3 days of intensive negotiations between the General Border Committee secretariats, with Thailand raising objections to earlier drafts. The latest proposal arrived Friday afternoon and will undergo an emergency review by Thailand's National Security Council, followed by a special cabinet meeting chaired by the Prime Minister. If approved, the defense ministers of both nations are scheduled to meet Saturday morning for a potential signing ceremony. Officials say the agreement aims to strengthen border management and reduce tensions between the neighboring countries. France is grappling with a sharp increase in influenza cases, with health authorities warning that the peak of the winter flu epidemic could arrive by early January. Hospitals across the country, including Edward Heriot Hospital in Lyon, are experiencing rising patient numbers, placing added strain on emergency departments during the busy holiday period. Emergency services report a significant surge in patients presenting with flu-like symptoms, including fever, cough, and respiratory complications. In response, hospitals have reallocated resources and called in additional staff to handle the growing patient load. Public health experts emphasize that epidemic is affecting all regions of France, with some areas already in crisis mode. Authorities are urging the public to get vaccinated, particularly those at higher risk, such as the elderly, the people with chronic illnesses, and pregnant women. Rwanda's mountain gorilla conservation success is creating new challenges 4 decades after the death of American primatologist Dian Fossey. The mountain gorilla population in the Virunga Mountains has increased from just 242 animals in 1981 to more than 1,000 by 2020, driven by strict conservation policies inspired by Fossey's work. But the population boom has led to increased conflict between gorilla groups, with infant deaths rising as clans compete for limited territory. To address the pressure, the Rwandan government plans to expand gorilla habitat by 23%. The move will require the relocation of around 3,400 families living near the national park. Meanwhile, gorillas continue to face threats from climate change and poaching, particularly in neighboring Uganda. NGOs there are promoting alternative livelihoods such as coffee farming to reduce pressure on wildlife. Now it's time for sports update. The 9th NV Women's and Men's Club Volleyball Championship kicked off today in Nepal's capital Kathmandu, with departmental teams marking strong starts in the women's category. In Group A, action at the National Sports Council's covered hall in Tripureshwar, the Tribhuvan Army Club defeated Everest Volleyball Club 3-0 in straight sets. Army won the first set 25-17, followed by 25-14 in the second and 25-23 in the third, securing a convincing victory. Meanwhile, Nepal Police Club also began their campaign with 3-0 win over Sudur Pashchim Province. Police dominated the match, winning the first set 25-10, the second 25-6 and the third 25-11. The tournament, organized by the Nepal Volleyball Association, features a total of 20 teams, 12 men's teams and 8 women's teams. The championship will continue until January 3rd. Record Africa Cup of Nations winners Egypt will take on South Africa on Friday in a headline group clash at the 2025 Confederation of African Football Tournament. Egypt entered the match as one of the top favorites to win the competition, despite the preparations being dominated by a public dispute involving star forward Mohamed Salah and his club Liverpool. The controversy has drawn attention away from the team, but the Pharaohs remain confident of adding to their record AFCON titles. South Africa, known as Bafana Bafana, were a major force in African football in the late 1990s and early 2000s, but have struggled for consistency in recent years. Recent improvements, however, have raised expectations among fans and analysts. An opening victory over Egypt would send a strong message of intent from South Africa and reshape the balance of power in the group. Friday's encounter is expected to be one of the standout matches of the early stages of the tournament, as two traditional heavyweights look to set the tone for their AFCON 2025 campaigns. Now, before we wrap up, let's take a look into the headlines once again. Former Nepal Army Lieutenant General Balananda Sharma sworn in as the country's new Foreign Affairs Minister. Cabinet expands to 15 members. Nepal steps up political dialogue ahead of parliamentary elections. Government spokesperson's effort aimed at ensuring free and fair polls. Severe cold and dense fog grips southern Nepal. Daily life disrupted in affecting children, elderly and farmers. U.S. military targets Islamic State in northwest Nigeria. Joint operation aims to curb militant activities along the Niger border. Former Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak found guilty in corruption trial. 25 charges linked to $569 million corruption case. And Tribhuvan Army and Nepal Police Clubs open women's campaign with straight set wins at the 9th Nepal Volleyball Championship in Kathmandu. That's all for NTV World Primetime News for now. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal time. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website at nepaltelevision.com. This is Bijata Bhandari. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu. Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World, facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries, where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World. Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
What if I told you a story of a place shrouded in mystery and steeped in stones? A place where warriors were born and raised and their path through the mountains still remain to this day. Jirkot Gorkha, the unbeaten kingdom.
हामी पाहुनाहरू आउनु हुँदाखेरि हामी यसरी स्वागत गर्छौं अनि अलि नाचगानहरू देखाउँछौं गर्व लाग्छ जन्मिएछु साथै स्वर्गमा म त नेपालकी छोरी भन्छन् गोर्खाली नाचहरू जस्तो घाटु चुड्काहरू भन्ने चाहिँ विशेष गरी हुन्छ यहाँ
For those seeking a luxurious escape, there are stunning lodges that offer an indulgent retreat amidst the rugged beauty of this place. But for the true adventurers, this place has it all. From trekking through dense forest of Nagepokari trails to exploring ancient temples and learning the rich history of the region. So, what do you fancy? Are you the solo explorer, or do you prefer luxury within nature? Or perhaps you are the one who seeks to witness it all. Well, after all, life is a box of chocolates, and this place is filled with surprises. Welcome to the place where magic and reality intertwine, where the wonders of nature are both breathtaking and aspiring. From the elevations of 300 meters to a towering 8,000 meters, this place will leave you mesmerized and in awe.
After around 7 hours drive from federal capital Kathmandu comes Dhunche Bazar, the district headquarters of Rashwa. Further ahead from Dhunche, demographically and ethnic mix, we reach Kerung custom point along Nepal-China border. However, we are headed to another destination. We are going to Gosai Kunda, a beautiful pilgrimage situated 4,380 meters above the sea level, and a perfect mix of adventure and spiritualism. Our trek begins from this very place. With excitement and energy alike, our journey to Gosai Kunda starts from Dhunche Bazar. This is a famous religious tourism site, especially twice a year on Jane Purnima and Ganga Dasara fair in Jester. Thousands of devotees throng this holy place. The first 1 hour of the trek up to Ghatte Khola is largely straight. This is where pilgrims take a tea break and some rest to prepare themselves for the uphill walk. There's a mini Gosai Kunda here as well. Uphill walk through the pine forest and natural diversity continues as we approach few lodges on the way. After nearly about 2 hours of trek, we reach Deurali. Another resting place for pilgrims and trekkers. Sip of tea in this freezing weather is a luxury these small hotels offer. This is also a well-known viewpoint to see the southern districts. The tharpus or shelters built and preserved by the Gosai Kunda Area Development Committee are found almost everywhere on the way. With more excitement than fatigue, the journey continues from Devrali. It's still a long way, and it's difficult to reach our destination today itself. Fatigue is visible on the faces of these travelers. In an hour or so, we reach Dingsa. This is a junction of Gosaikunda with another route mixing here. Tharpus and light snacks are available here as well. The trail, though uphill, is not very difficult. The natural beauty of the area, mild weather, and many travelers make the arduous journey much easier. Chandanbari is the next place after about an hour's walk. This is a small but beautiful hamlet for tourists. Cozy but clean and hygienic hotels are found here. Many tourists travel up to Chandanbari even at times other than the two famous religious fairs take place. The oldest yak cheese production factory of Dairy Development Corporation is here. Even the trekkers take a test of the famous yak cheese produced in Chandanbari. The yak herds also make the environment exciting. Many travelers who cannot bear the fatigue anymore take overnight stop here and head to Gosaikunda the next morning. The place is also known as Singh Monastery, named after the ancient monument itself. The uphill trek continues from Chandanbari for another 2 hours up to Cholangpati. This place, renowned for yak farming and traders, is another stop on the way. Though few tourists are also seen here, yak farmers often gather in monsoon season here. The typical Himalayan lifestyle, cylindrical pine trees and the cold weather greet the travelers.
Many temporary structures are set up by local administration, Nepal Army, police among others, along the way during the annual Gosaikunda Fair to provide free health care and first aid services to travelers. After another 2 hours walk, we reach the Lowri Bina area. Those who can walk faster take overnight stop at this place that has plenty of hotels. This is the perfect place to enjoy nature and its beauty. The view of mountain peaks including Ganesh, Manasalu, Langtang and some across the border in China and Thunche Bazar is a treat to the eyes. The idol of Lord Buddha greets trekkers at this place. The trail also gets a bit less difficult with almost no more uphill walk. Legend has it that the place got its name Lowri Bina, meaning free of walking sticks, as travelers discard their walking stick at the end of the uphill climb here. The same walking stick is again brought back while returning from the pilgrimage. Another 2 hours facile walk takes us to Ganesh Gaunda. From where the revered Vairav and Saraswati Kunda or lakes become visible. The very sight of the holy water of the ponds rejuvenates every traveler. One of the specialities of Ganesh Kunda is the idol of Lord Ganesh and the tailless mice or the moles known as the ride of Lord Ganesh are seen roaming freely. Gosai Kunda is just 15 minutes walk from this place. The pond, measuring 4 square kilometers in width and 19.2 meters in depth, is the common holy site for both Hindus and Buddhists. Devotees offer prayers at the temple after taking a holy dip in the freezing water of the pond. Twice a year during Janai Purnima and Dasarma fairs, Hindu and Buddhist devotees throng the holy site. The pond is the origin of the mighty Trisuli river. A little further is the Trishul Dhara, or a fountain with its own anecdote. Legend has it that Lord Shiva, after drinking the Kalkut poison, held it in his neck. After holding the poison in his neck, Lord Shiva started roaming around in immense pain and thirst. The fountain was formed here when Lord Shiva struck his trident to quench his thirst. The fountain is the source of water for the ponds here. Lord Shiva is believed to have laid flat on the ground here after drinking the water. As per the legend, this happened on the day of Janai Purnima. Thus comes the popular belief that Lord Shiva still visits this place on the day of Janai Purnima along with other deities. The river Trisuli also got its name as it originated from the place where the Lord had struck with his Trisul, or the trident. Devotees throng this place during Janai Purnima. The atmosphere is lightened by various pageantries, including cultural shows during the fair. A few hotels can be found here for those who want to make an overnight stop. However, many try to avoid staying here due to fears of altitude sickness. Nevertheless, medical camps are adequately set up for emergencies during the fair. Special paid horse ride service is also available for those who can't walk. There are 3 different routes to reach Gosai Kunda. One is the Kathmandu Chisapani Ghopte Suryakunda route. Another route is via Rasua's Langtang Thulu Safru Gosai Kunda. And of course, the route via Dhunchi of Rasua, which we traveled is probably the shortest and the easiest of them all. This route is 3 to 4 days walk from Dhunche, depending on the individual's speed. Travelers can choose 2 different routes to and fro Gosai Kunda to spice up their adventure. The revered Gosai Kunda at 4,380 meters above the sea level in Gosai Kunda rural municipality of Rasua district and inside Langtang National Park is a must-go destination for any avid traveler. Ask anyone who has been there. It is indeed a lifetime experience.
In the natural splendor, the silver-like peaks or the Himalayas glisten. Cradling a pond filled with milk in its lap, the Numbur Himal gleams. The Dudkunda, meaning a milk pond in Nepal's northeastern district of Solukhumbu, is truly the gateway to the paradise. The Numbur, Khatang and Karyalung mountains seem to smile at all times. Adorned with a garland of colorful flowers, the Dudkunda is overflowing as if filled with milk. The very sight defines nature at its best. Feels as if the Numbur mountain is giving motherly affection, holding the lake in its lap. The beauty is so serene and virgin that one fears not to stain it by touching. Indeed, Dudkunda is nature at its purest form. Located at Solu Dudkunda municipality, Taksindu, the natural paradise draws many visitors. No matter how many words are spent describing it, they all feel inadequate upon reaching there. The name itself is fulfilling and equally sacred.
हजारौं नरनारीहरू चाहिँ तीर्थयात्रीहरू दुधकुण्डमा जानुभएको छ। म पनि पुगिरहेँ। दुधकुण्ड असाध्यै पवित्र स्थल यो हिमाल काखमा रहेको तीर्थस्थल हो, पुण्यस्थल हो, देवस्थल हो र त्यहाँ चाहिँ एकचोटि पुग्नै पर्दो रहेछ। त्यहाँ पुगेर जुन आनन्दको अनुभूति हुन्छ त्यो चाहिँ कहीँ पनि पाइँदैन भन्ने चाहिँ महसुस भएको छ।
आनन्द लाग्यो, मस्त लाग्यो अनि यो ठाउँमा चाहिँ आएर तपस्या गरेर बस्नु जाउँ जस्तो लाग्यो मलाई।
एकदमै राम्रो लाग्यो हैन, प्रकृतिले दिएको रमणीय तीर्थस्थल हैन। जो कोही पनि एकचोटि चाहिँ यहाँ आएर एकचोटि भ्रमण गरेर दर्शन गर्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्यो।
Situated at an altitude of 4,531 meters above the sea level, Dudkunda is a sacred pilgrimage site of culture and nature. It feels like nature has blessed this place, and culturally, it has bound all castes and ethnicities in a thread of unity. There are various legends and sayings about Dudkunda. One argument is that the pond was formed during the creation of the Himalayas and was discovered by local sheep and yak herders. According to another legend, in ancient times, a yak would go to a stone where the pond is located and offer its milk every day. Later, the place was found to be a pond filled with milk.
leading to its name, Dudh Kunda. This has also led to the belief that gods and goddesses reside here. There are 3 different routes to reach Dudh Kunda. One route is through Salleri, Faplu, Taksindu and Sasra Beni. Another route goes via Lukla, the gateway to the Everest, through Nuntala, Taksindu and Sahasra Beni. Nature has truly blessed the Solu Dudh Kunda municipality. Truly, just like the majestic Mount Everest, Dudh Kunda has the potential to be the destination for everyone in the days to come. It is a thread of unity among all castes and ethnicities. Just like the holy water of Dudh Kunda, it will become a pure and excellent destination.
Educate a woman and you educate a society. This popular phrase is well-intentioned, but the framing also subtly treats women's education as a derivative matter and valuable only for what it produces for others, families, economies, and nations, rather than as a right in itself. To add to this treatment, around the world, women's access to higher education continues to remain deeply unequal, especially in times of crisis. Conflict, displacement, political upheaval, and economic shocks do not just interrupt education, they disproportionately push women out of it, often permanently. Today's episode of Insight will be about examining what women's higher education means in a world shaped by instability and what policy choices make access possible or impossible. Our guest for today, Kamal Ahmed, is the founder, president and CEO of the Asian University for Women, an institution that works at the intersection of education, displacement and gender justice. Kamal, welcome to NTV World Insight.
Thank you, Sarah.
You are in Kathmandu right now for a very short period of time. What brings you here?
We are about to launch a campaign in Nepal to get the word out about the Asian University for Women and to invite smart, talented, brave, young Nepali women to take the journey, educational journey with us at the Asian University for Women.
Mm-hmm. To begin, UNESCO estimates that girls in crisis are 2.5 times more likely to be out of education compared to boys. What do you think most directly, because you also work with women who've been displaced because of crisis, what do you think most directly pushes women out of higher education during these circumstances?
Well, there are probably a litany of reasons why girls and women get pushed out of the educational system before they get to higher education. One of the more crucial ones is early marriage. You know, in societies where girls get married so young, the question of higher education does not even arise. When families are at a stress, economically or socially or politically, the first ones to sacrifice often are girls. You say, okay, we'll educate the boy. Maybe the boy will bring something back. Whereas the girls in our societies are still, by and large, thought of as more of a burden. So they're easily sacrificed. Their education is cut off. So those are some of the things. But also, I think you have to remember, it's not easy for girls, even in the best of circumstances, to access education. in an environment where there are hazards of sexual harassment on the way to school, in school. So there are all sorts of pressures on girls to drop out of school early.
Why Asian university for women?
There are so many reasons for why Asian university for women. I think the Asian is function of geography. We happen to be located in Bangladesh, which is part of Asian region. But as I mentioned earlier, the notion of a university is universal. If somebody from Africa were to apply, it's not like we would say, no, you can't apply, you're out of the region. In fact, we have graduated a student from Senegal. And we are hoping that in the future we will have more students from Latin America, from Africa. We have a student from Japan as we speak, and so on. The women's university, of course, needs more explanation. We think there has been a systematic neglect of high quality women's education. Mm-hmm. And there is evidence that when women come together in a setting of their own, they're more likely to succeed. They're more likely to go into fields that are often not chosen by women. For instance, it is evident that students who go to women's colleges and universities tend to go more towards sciences and engineering. That's something we want to foster. We have a summer school where we invite high school students to come for the summer for a math and science camp, so that those talents are nurtured earlier on. So we think a women's university has a special place in the universe of universities and higher education as a platform for women to know they are equal, they have talents like everybody else, and there is a supportive community that says nothing will inhibit you, nothing will prohibit you from actualizing your full potential.
Mm-hmm. UNHCR's latest figures say that only 3% of refugees enrolled in higher education globally, compared with much higher enrollment at primary and secondary levels. Your university hosts a lot of Afghan women and single largest group of Rohingya women as well. What do you think are the practical barriers that you had to overcome to make it possible? And which of these barriers do you think could governments realistically address through policy reforms?
So, you know, the refugee crisis around the world is obviously a function of government policy. Some governments decide that certain people will no longer be allowed to stay within their countries. So I think at the root of the problem is really government action against certain groups that generate the refugee crisis, and that's at the root of everything, of all of these problems. But having said that, of course, there are things that governments, communities, and organizations can do to help ameliorate the situation. In Afghanistan today, girls are not allowed to go to school beyond 6th grade. This is obviously a policy that doesn't help with the educational advancement of girls and women. The Rohingya women who are in Bangladesh, you know, it's very difficult to provide a decent education in a camp where you're not recognized as an equal, where your dignity is not really offered. So even in the best of circumstances, the education they end up getting is subpar. So I think one of the fundamental things that we have to do is to recognize the equality of people. It is from that recognition of equality, everything else I think that we desire as a society that is humane, that is recognizes talent is among everybody, will come forth.
Mm-hmm. Many displaced populations have severe restricted access to formal education even in host countries, right? What has your experience of educating these women been like so far?
We have had an exhilarating experience with the communities of women, not just from Afghanistan, of which we have about 600 women, or Rohingya, who are about 400, but also Syrians, people from Yemen. You know, of all groups, I think the refugee or migrant populations have an acute sense that education is their only instrument. They have nothing else to inherit. So if they can prove themselves through their merit through education, they have possibly a path ahead. And there is perhaps no greater reminder to us of this possibility than to see this year's Nobel Prize winners. One of the Nobel Prize winners in chemistry, for example, he grew up in a refugee camp in Jordan. And as he said, it was his father's insistence that education will be the only path through which he could come out of that kind of a predicament that allowed him to come to the stage where he is now a Nobel Prize winner.
Mm-hmm. Now, in humanitarian settings, most funding goes to primary education, while higher education receives less than 3% of global education in emergencies funding. Based on your university's outcomes, how would you argue that higher education for displaced women should be treated as a core humanitarian investment rather than a long-term aspiration?
I think we have to recognize the imperatives of both, the imperatives of humanitarian action immediately and the long-term prospects of solutions to these problems. Of course, without primary education, one cannot aspire for secondary or higher education. One of the challenges have been people have looked at the system in segmented ways. You cannot imagine a secondary or a primary education system functioning effectively unless there is a higher education system that is robust. Where will the teachers come from? Who will develop the curriculum? Who will support the organization of schools and colleges? But I think one thing that has been under-recognized is the power of higher education in germinating and cultivating leadership. Ultimate solution of a lot of the crises we see today will spring from the leadership of these communities. Mm-hmm. If you don't have an educated leadership, it is hard to imagine how they will come out of the predicaments they're in. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's one or the other. We have to do both. I think it is imperative that we do not think of higher education as something that can be spared, mm-hmm. because if we don't invest in higher education, these communities will continue to be voiceless. Others will have to speak for them, and that is never a good thing.
Mm-hmm. You spoke about leadership. Over the course of time, in recent years especially, the number of enrollment of women in higher education has increased. It's more than 50% of the total enrollment. But when we talk about women in leadership position or researchers or academic leaderships, it's only around about 30%. Where do you see the gap, and what are we not doing or not doing right?
Well, there are many challenges. You know, education, of course, is the first step. But that is not in itself sufficient. For example, if you look at medical graduates in South Asia, actually quite a large percentage of medical graduates are women. But when it comes to practice of medicine, the number dramatically diminishes. Why? Quite often, these women post-graduation are married, and there are societal pressures on them being in public life and being practiced that even though they could have been the best doctors, mm-hmm. they've stayed home to take care of families or children or what have you. There are also, in certain places, laws that permit women to get an education. But let's say you've become a lawyer, you can't practice, because there are still discriminations in the employment field. by statute, by law. And in other places, there are also, organizational inhibitions to promoting women. And it's not just a developing country phenomenon, it's a phenomenon around the world. It's changing, fortunately, but we still have long ways to go before equality can be achieved. But I repeat, education has to be the first step. If you don't educate, then you will never get to a parity. If it's only when you have educated, then you can seek a parity in the professions, in leadership, in further advancement of women.
I think I remember reading a story about an Afghan woman. After the Taliban takeover, she used to work in Ministry of Finance and held a master's degree, but had to quit and take all sorts of jobs to make a living. So how do you see the international community coming together to deal with scenarios like these? Because it does not seem to be, the lives of the women in there does not seem to be changing for good.
There are a lot of places, Afghanistan is not the only one, where state policies actively discourage equality of women, aspirations of women. And the net result, I think, is widely recognized that they're disabling the entire societies. If all of the society are not allowed to develop, to contribute to one's economic development, social development, intellectual development, you can never optimize on the full potential of the human population that you have. So I think it's short-sighted, it's inhumane to say half of your population will not be able to get the same opportunities that the other half seems to be entitled to. And in effect, it retards possibilities for the whole society.
The Asian University of Women recruits many students from underprivileged and conflict-affected backgrounds. In systems that focus mainly on test scores, the traditional method, do you think there's a way for governments to create fair admissions policies without causing backlash or lowering standards?
I think one has to understand what standards are. In the old Greek times, allegedly, Plato's Academy said that if you don't know geometry, don't enter this academy. We have taken a different approach. We have said everybody has talents. And if they have not had a great secondary education, maybe they will not know geometry. But it is not very complicated to teach arithmetic or geometry. So the Asian University for Women has taken an approach which says we will be very flexible at entrance, but we will have no flexibility at exit. What do I mean by that? We mean that somebody coming from a poor, let's say in the Terai community in Nepal or in the western region, they will not have the same schools as many of the more prominent schools in Kathmandu have. They will not have the same academic standards. But that doesn't mean they don't have the potential to learn. So what we say is, if you have certain qualities, if you're motivated, if you have leadership potential, if you have courage, we welcome you. And we will give you extra years to catch up in English, catch up in math, and catch up in computers. And that seems to work. The other thing I would say is, we look at standards in a very narrow way. There is a lot of research that shows that intelligence appears in many forms. We seem to choose only a very narrow set of those metrics. When you expand them, you discover a whole new world of measuring people's potential. And I think we have to broaden it. What we are interested in is leadership. And it turns out, yes, academics are very important, but personal qualities are also very important. And I think if governments, societies want to develop where leadership is recognized early and cultivated, then they have to move to a better way of assessing young people, recognizing for what they have, what they can contribute, and move away from this narrow, so-called objective set of metrics.
Now, many governments focus on short-term job training, but your university uses a liberal arts model, as you just explained. Is this approach better in preparing displaced or marginalized women for unstable job markets, civic life, and, as you mentioned, leadership?
I think, Sarah, you have to recognize that, it's no one thing that will have answers for everything. So, in a society, you need multiple aptitudes and skill sets. I'm not going to say that you don't need plumbers and other sort of vocationally trained people. They're very important in sustaining our communities. But you also need people with a liberal arts and science training who can provide a different type of vision for the society. And I would also say that just because somebody is trained in vocational training, liberal arts should not even be eliminated from that scheme. There is a misjudgment about people that I think springs largely from our classist view of things, of people. It is often said that if you're poor, if you don't have enough resources, you should go into a vocational school, become a plumber, or do something that uses your hands and not your mind. I think that is fundamentally a misjudgment. Mm-hmm. It is, we must recognize whether you're poor or rich, whether you're from the rural areas, from faraway places or nearby places in the middle of a city, talent is equally distributed. And we must be able to recognize them and give them the opportunity to flourish. And if you do that, it is possible that somebody from very meager background will be the best thinkers, will be the best leaders. And our society should not prejudge that potential. Because if we prejudge, we run the risk of missing out on the most talented.
Now, which elements of AUW would you say are actually replicable at a larger scale, and which fail primarily due to lack of political will, maybe, rather than lack of resources?
I think the fundamental aspect is really to remove the aspirational barriers of, in our case, girls and young women. Quite often, if you're an adolescent girl in our part of the region, of the world, you're frequently told that you cannot be anything. You can't, in fact, you're told you can be, this is it. You should get married and have children, and that's your life. You were predestined to be that way. I think what is urgently needed is to reverse this. Girls and young women, when they're young, must be told, must be encouraged that anything they want to do is possible. Because if they are not given the view that they can achieve something, they will never achieve it. So I think one of the more important things that governments and societies as a whole can do is to be more encouraging of young people, of young women and girls, that the possibilities are endless. They have all the potential to succeed. When I go to visit schools, I say it doesn't matter whether you have shoes or no shoes. If you have courage and the intellectual wherewithal, you can be anything. And I think that's what's needed. Because if you guide them, if you inspire them, if you encourage them in such ways, they will, in fact, fulfill those visions.
You are one of the founders of AUW. Throughout these many years, you've seen many women, many girls graduate and turn out to be leaders in their own places and in their own fields. What makes you very happy? Are there cases that makes you very proud?
There are so many instances where, which have, pride is probably not a word I would choose, that make you feel comforted that these years of labor have actually not been in vain. So, I'll give you a couple of examples. We have a project in the Rohingya camps where our graduates are training 1,100 Rohingya primary school teachers. Who are the ones who is doing this training? These are our Afghan graduates. They have moved to Cox's Bazar, lock, stock, and barrel, set up their own offices. They've set up their curriculum, their lesson plans, and they're largely teaching these 1,100 male teachers from the Rohingya refugee camps. And it's been astounding for me to see how successful, how worthwhile this endeavor has been. UNICEF is sponsoring this project. They have told me that this is one of the best training they have seen as an organized activity. We have a large program of educating garment factory workers. On Fridays, when the factories are closed, we go to the factory and tell the workers that please take this admissions test. Because again, if you don't take this test, you will never know. And maybe out of thousands of young women who take these tests, about 100 or 200 get in. But many of these young women who were previously working on the shop floors of factories have become bankers. Some are even contemplating starting their own factories. So you see education not only as an instrument of changing perspectives, but also empowering them in such a way that they can alter everybody else's perception of what is possible.
Mm-hmm. For women that are watching this interview right now, for those who are interested in enrolling or exploring opportunities at AUW, how can they approach AUW and what kind of opportunities can they expect to access?
Great question. AUW is an international university based in Chittagong, Bangladesh. We offer an undergraduate program in the liberal arts and sciences across many disciplines and a limited set of graduate programs in professions like education or management and so forth. By definition, a university is open to everybody. Mm-hmm. So we have students from 22 different countries. We have 90% of our students are on full scholarship, where every cost, even international travel, their costs of room, board, tuition, books, computers are covered by the institution. We are looking for the brightest young women we can find anywhere. So I hope from the great schools like St. Xavier's or St. Mary's in Kathmandu to schools in the Terai region in western Nepal, young women who want an education, they will consider coming to AUW. What we can promise them is that we will do our best to provide the best education they can get.
What about the age bracket for women that are interested to apply, and if there are any men who are also interested to apply?
The age bracket is between 17 and 23 for women who want to apply for admission into the university. For men, I'm afraid we do not admit men. Men are welcome to apply to come join the faculty or administration because our faculty and administration are international. They come from all over the world, and both men and women partake in the learning and teaching in the community. So we're a women's university. The only students on campus are really women.
This is interesting. Have you had any of your own graduate students as faculty members?
You know, we have just appointed a young woman, Nazifa is her name. She graduated from the Asian University for Women and obtained her PhD with lots of laurels from Cambridge University. And we've invited her back to become a member of our faculty. And there are others who work as teaching staff, not at the undergraduate faculty level. Of the 2,000 or so graduates we have had, nearly 50% have completed graduate degrees at the master's level, and almost 80 graduates are pursuing or have completed PhDs. So we see a full circle of our graduates going on to some of the best universities in the world for their graduate work and returning to AUW to teach and germinate yet another generation of talented students from all over the world.
Kamal Ahmed, thank you so much for being on NTV World Insight.
Thank you for having me.
Well, what we can sum up from today's interview is that women's higher education does not fail by accident. It fails by design, by neglect or political choice as well. As crises are becoming more frequent, the question is no longer whether we can afford to invest in women's higher education, but whether we can afford not to. Institutions may innovate, but lasting change requires policy commitment by governments, donors, and global systems to protect women's rights to lead, learn, and shape the future. Our discourse on making this world a just place will continue here on Insight. Until next time. Buddha Nilkantha is one of Nepal's most sacred and historic pilgrimage sites. Located at the southern base of Shivapuri Hill, just north of the Kathmandu Valley, this temple complex has long served as a peaceful place where devotees come to seek faith and spiritual connection. At its center lies the extraordinary statue of Lord Vishnu, known here as Jal Narayan. This massive stone figure, half submerged in a sacred pond, shows Vishnu reclining on the coils of Sheshnag, the king of serpents. Resting on the cosmic ocean, this form represents divine balance and protection, making Buddha Nilkantha one of the most revered Vishnu shrines in Nepal.
यहाँ विशेष गरी हाम्रो वैशाख महिनाभरि मेला लाग्ने गर्दछ। त्यसमा पनि वैशाख 1 गतेलाई विशेष रूपले मानिन्छ र वर्षमा 5 चोटी वैशाख 1 गते भगवानलाई विशेष गरगहनाहरूले सजाइन्छ। पूजापाठ विशेष पूजाहरू हुन्छ, महास्नानहरू आदि हुन्छन्। त्यस्तै गरी वैशाख 1 गते वैशाख पूर्णिमा अनि कार्तिक शुक्ल द्वादशी र कार्तिक पूर्णिमामा विशेष मेला लाग्दछ र यस ठाउँको पर्व अनुसारको विभिन्न समयमा एकादशीमा शनिबार बुधबार बिहीबार त्यस्ता विशेष पर्वहरूमा ठुलो घुइँचो भिड लाग्ने परम्पराहरू चल्दै आएका छन्।
Two major festivals, Hari Sayani Ekadashi in Asar and Hari Bodhini Ekadashi in Kartik, are celebrated with great devotion. Ekadashi, observed on the 11th day of each lunar fortnight, is a sacred fasting day dedicated to Lord Vishnu. It is believed to purify the mind and body and deepen spiritual discipline. During these festivals, the temple becomes lively with worship, fasting rituals, chanting, and the lighting of oil lamps. Even on regular days, hundreds of people visit to pray, meditate, and experience the calm environment of the temple. The history of Buddha Nilkantha is believed to date back to the Lichavi period, showing the artistic and cultural depth of ancient Nepal. The 5-meter-long black stone idol lies gracefully on the serpent bed, holding the conch, chakra, mace, and lotus, symbols of protection, cosmic order, and divinity. According to legend, a farmer and his wife discovered the statue while plowing their field. Their plow struck stone, and the idol is said to have bled. Shocked, the villagers gathered and uncovered the figure with their hands. Afraid they had committed a sin, the farmers apologized to the god for disturbing the idol. Stories say that Lord Vishnu then appeared before the people as Narayan in forms similar to those worshipped in Badrinath and Kedarnath. This is believed to be the origin of the name Nilakantha.
किसानले हाम्रो खलोमा जहाँ खन्यौं त्यहीबाट रगत आइरहेको छ भन्ने कुराहरू चाहिँ फैलिए अनि गाउँका किसानहरू जो खेतमा काम गरिरहेका थिए ती सबै जम्मा भएर हातको माध्यमले खन्दै जाँदाखेरि यो भगवानको दिव्यमान विग्रह प्राकट्य भयो। प्राकट्य भइसकेपछि तिनी किसानलाई पुरा चिन्तित भए। मैले त ठुलो अपराध गरेछु, भगवान यहाँ हुनुहुँदो रहेछ मलाई थाहा थिएन र भगवानसँग एकदम अनुनय विनय गर्न थाले, रुन कराउन लागे। साक्षात हेर्दाखेरि भगवान चाहिँ सामान्य रूपमा सामान्य दृष्टिले हेर्दाखेरि नारायणको रूपमा देखिनुहुन्छ, तर भगवान चाहिँ बद्रीनाथ र केदारनाथजीको स्वरूपमा आउनु भएको अनि त्यसलाई चाहिँ पूर्णता दिनको लागि नाम चाहिँ उनको नाम नीलकण्ठ थियो। त्यही भएर भगवानले तिम्रो नाम र मेरो नाम प्रसिद्धि गर भनेपछि नीलकण्ठ भनेर चाहिँ नाम रहने भयो।
Although open to the sky, the temple is an important example of traditional Nepali architecture, simple, symmetrical, and symbolic. The area also serves as a gurukul, offering teachings in Sanskrit, Vedas, and classical forms of worship. Surrounding the temple are peepal trees, valued for their religious, cultural, and environmental importance. They provide shade and a sense of calm to the space. At the northern entrance are the idols of Three Dev and Three Devi, Shiva, Saraswati, and Ganesh. They symbolize power, knowledge and auspicious beginnings. At the center stands a statue of Hanuman, representing strength, devotion, and loyalty. Every morning from 7:30 to 8:30 a.m., priests perform the daily ritual, bathing the statue, offering fresh clothes, flowers, incense, and holy water. The sounds of conch shells, bells, and chanting create a devotional atmosphere.
I have deep faith in Buddha Nilkantha, which is why I come here often. Every visit brings me a sense of peace and comfort.
Buddha Nilkantha is also connected to nature. The green forest of Shivapuri rises just above the temple, adding to its peaceful surroundings.
यो क्षेत्र चाहिँ वास्तवमा अब यो भगवान विष्णुको चाहिँ एउटा आस्थाको केन्द्रबिन्दु.
This place is a center of devotion for all followers of Lord Vishnu. Most people come here with the belief that their prayers will be heard and their wishes fulfilled.
For many visitors, the temple acts as an entry point to both spiritual and natural beauty, attracting pilgrims from Nepal and abroad. Today, Buddha Nilkantha stands not only as a religious site but also as a cultural heritage treasure. The government, local communities, and devotees continue to work together to protect and preserve it for future generations.
Nepal has numerous places and monuments of historical, archaeological, religious, cultural, and natural significance. Among them, one is Bodhanath Stupa that lies in the northeast of Kathmandu. This world-famous stupa is the property of ancient arts and culture. It is also the property of Buddhist civilization. This region, spread in about 7,630 square meter area, is about 7 kilometers far from Kathmandu Darbar Square. It is about 100 feet in radius and has a height of about 141.8 feet. Its date of construction is not yet exactly ascertained. However, some theories based on some myths, chronology, and some written scriptures of Guru Padmasambhava are popular. The stupa, which is the largest stupa in the world, is believed to be constructed with the remains of Kashyapa Buddha in it. This stupa, also considered as the symbol of Trikal Buddha's heart, harbors thousands of devotees and visitors every day. Furthermore, with the enlistment of the stupa in the UNESCO's World Heritage List, its fame has skyrocketed. Despite the fact that majority of residents around the stupa are from Tamang community, there are also people from other communities like Newar, Sherpa, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Tibetans, and so on. This very feature symbolizes unity and diversity. The history of Bodhanath Stupa. The history of its construction is still mysterious. However, different myths, chronicles regarding its establishment are popular. As per the scripture of Guru Padmasambhava, Bodhanath is called Jarung Khashor in Tibetan language. According to a myth, an angel named Purnima Gangchungma was born in earth as a punishment for stealing flour in heaven. She was born in a place in Nepal as Jajima, a daughter of poultry farmer. Later, when she grew up, she got married to a horse trader. After the birth of a son, the horse trader died. She then got married to a pig trader. After the birth of a son, the pig trader too died. Then after, she married a dog trader. He too died after the birth of a son. Finally, she got married to a poultry farmer. He too died after the birth of a son. The mother of 4 sons then got involved in poultry farm and amassed a bigger fortune. After her sons got married, she still had a bigger chunk of wealth and she decided to devote herself in religious rites. Then a thought of establishing a stupa was emerged in her mind. She then pleaded the king to allot some land to make the stupa. The king responded to her demand positively. However, a widow willing to perform a larger kind of pious work was intolerable to the wealthy people of that community. They then went to the king pleading him to stop the project. Since the king had already promised her, he denied going as per their request. Due to this reason, the word Kashwar was added to the name, which means slipped promise. And finally, it became Jarung Kashwar. In Tibetan language, Ja means a year of the bird. The construction was said to be initiated and ended in the same year of bird after 12 years. So it is believed to be called Jarung Kashwar. Jajima died 4 years after the start of the project. Then her 4 sons continued the project. Due to their pious work, those 4 sons are reincarnated as Holy King Trisong Duchen, great Buddhist preacher Shanta Rakshit, Guru Padmasambhava, and religious minister Bami Thiser in Tibet, and had worked for the establishment of Buddhism according to a myth. According to a belief, Bodhanath Stupa was constructed in around 5th century. It is said that the stupa was discovered in the era of Lichavi king Shivadev. Some Buddhists believe that, like Swayambhunath, Bodhanath was also self-created. According to a chronicle written by Daniel Wright, the stupa was constructed by King Manadeva I, which was started in 464 AD and completed in 505 AD. It was later destroyed by Mughal king and later reconstructed. It is coated with thousands of grams of gold. Water is filled in the stupa's pond in every 12 years, and in every 12 years there's a carnival to observe the Bodhanath pond. During the carnival, thousands of Buddhist devotees, either local or foreign, visit the spot to see the pond and take the water out from the pond. It is believed that whosoever sees the pond and drink water from it will have his or her illness remedied, and healthy people will gain immunity to fight against the diseases. A Chinese Lama is appointed by the Guti Sansthan that belongs to the government of Nepal, whereas the Ministry of Culture and Tourism has established Bodhanath Area Development Committee that looks after Bodhanath and performs all the necessary renovations of the stupa. This stupa is based on the practice of Mahayana Buddhism. It is also taken as the symbol of Chintamani. As per the Buddhist model of construction, bricks, mud, stones, wood, copper and gold were used to construct the stupa. It has 5 layers of construction, which are considered as the 5 elements of nature that are needed for the creation. The upper portion of the stupa from the ground level is considered as the earth. The core above it is considered water. 13 Bhuvan symbolizes fire, Chatravali symbolizes air, and the topmost dome indicates the sky. There's a ring road that encircles the stupa. Buddhists encircle the shrine chanting Om Mani Padme Hum. It is believed that chanting the mantra will free oneself from all miseries and will finally achieve salvations from the heaven, hell, earth, and other places. There are 6 such places in total according to Buddhism. Different statues of Bodhisattva are placed in different parts of the stupa. Mantras are written in each statue. There are 108 different parts in the stupa, and a statue of different gods and goddesses rests in each part. There are 108 total statues placed on those parts. Its dome is considered as the symbol of the universe. The 2 eyes in each direction is called Harmika. Harmika indicates the 4 noble truths and 8 rightfold paths. These peaceful and thoughtful eyes also symbolize knowledge and measures to rid from evil. It is believed that the gaze of the eyes will rid oneself from sex, anger, greed, attachment, jealousy, gluttony, and pain, and will take the mind to bliss, non-violence, and positivity. The question mark-like symbol below the eyes symbolizes nirvana, and the dot symbolizes wisdom. There are 13 more stories above the Harmika. These 13 stories indicate the 13 places after life that Bodhisattva crosses. After the 13th story lies a gold-plated copper lotus. The flower symbolizes softness, purity, kindness. Then after lies Chatravali's, which is considered as a protector of the stupa. The top part of the stupa is considered as the symbol of Sumeru mountain, which indicates greatness. It is believed that after reaching the peak, one is supposed to attain nirvana, shunyata. Buddhist devotees pray to the shrine, seeking welfare not just for themselves but for the entire living creatures. Nepal signed the World Heritage Conservation Treaty to renovate of different cultural and religious heritages with the aid of UNESCO in 1978. By 1979, 7 places inside the Kathmandu Valley were listed in the World Heritage List. One of those 7 heritages is Bodhanath. Different festivals and jatras are celebrated in Bodhanath every year. Among them, one is Mamla Jatra. It is also called Azim Jatra. There is no authentic documentation regarding the origin of this jatra, yet oral tradition says it had begun in the 8th century after Guru Rinpoche Azim was established as the protector of this area.
यो जात्रा चाहिँ विशेष गरेर ममको स्मरणमा ममको सम्झनामा मनाउने गरिन्छ।
Likewise, a day before Chaitra Purnima, Temal Jatra is observed. This Jatra is celebrated especially by Tamang community. During this Jatra, Tamangs from Kathmandu and neighboring districts visit the place and ignite lights in the loving memory of their deceased relatives. There's a tradition of giving alms and donations after the completion of puja. They also sing Tamang Selo and dance with the song. Vaisakh Purnima celebrates Buddha Jayanti. This is the day on which Lord Buddha was born, got enlightenment, and received Mahaparinirvana. There is a special puja on this day for the same reason. In the like manner, people perform plantation of paddy as the festival during the month of July-August. This jatra is a part and parcel of Buddhist identity. People light lights in the memory of their deceased relatives on this jatra as well. On Mangsir and Paush, October, November and December, January, people celebrate the Dasami Cheju Puja related to Guru Rinpoche. Losar, which is New Year, is also celebrated in a grand way. Special carnival is observed here during Sonam Losar. Similarly, after death of a Buddhist in the area, the deceased body is taken around the mortal remains is taken around the shrine and then cremated. It is believed that taking the body around the shrine will free the deceased person from all the worldly and afterlife sufferings. These festivals and celebrations are no doubt a continuation of Buddhist culture, but are equally useful in preserving the Buddhist culture as well as for the promotion of tourism. This World Heritage Site has religious, historical and cultural significance. It is our responsibility to promote this holy place as a beautiful tourist destination for the visitors from all over the world and work for the preservation of it as well. United States military says it carried out air and missile strikes against Islamic State targets in northwestern Nigeria on Christmas Day. The Pentagon released a video on social media showing a missile launch from a U.S. naval vessel, describing the operation as aimed at IS militants operating in the region. In a post on Truth Social, President Donald Trump claimed the strikes were powerful and deadly and said there would be further attacks if militants continued killing Christians in Nigeria. Nigerian authorities have not publicly commented on the reported strikes, and independent verification remains limited. Islamic State-linked groups have been active in parts of Nigeria for years, carrying out attacks on civilians, security forces, and religious communities. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he held what he described as a truly good conversation with envoys of U.S. President Donald Trump, discussing ideas and possible formats aimed at ending the war with Russia. Zelensky said sensitive issues remain, but added that Ukraine and the American team share an understanding of how to move forward after talks with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Meanwhile, fighting continued on the ground, with the Russian drone strike hitting a residential building in the northern Ukrainian city of Chernihiv on Christmas Day. Ukrainian emergency services say an elderly woman was killed and several others were injured when the drone struck a 5-story apartment block, sparking a fire and causing significant damage. Emergency crews rescued residents, evacuated others from the building, and continued firefighting and debris removal as authorities assess the aftermath. Heavy rain has triggered flash flooding across parts of Southern California, causing damage on the eve of Christmas. Emergency crews responded in the mountain community of Wrightwood, where floodwaters and debris engulfed cars and inundated streets. Authorities also issued warnings of possible debris flows, particularly in areas recently scarred by wildfires, where soil is more vulnerable to landslides. Further north, strong storms brought down trees and blocked roads in San Francisco. Officials are urging residents to remain cautious as unstable weather conditions continue to affect the region. Myanmar's upcoming national election is reviving painful memories for Rohingya refugees living in exile in Bangladesh. The country is set to hold polls on December 28, the third national vote since Rohingya Muslims were stripped of their voting rights in 2015. Many Rohingya who fled Myanmar after military crackdowns and now live as stateless refugees say the election highlights their continued exclusion. More than 1 million Rohingya are currently sheltering in camps in Bangladesh, unable to return home safely. The vote comes as Myanmar remains under military rule and international concern persists over the treatment of ethnic minorities. A Malaysian court has convicted former Prime Minister Najib Razak of abuse of power and money laundering in his second major trial over the multi-billion-dollar 1MDB state fund scandal. Najib, 72, was found guilty on 4 counts of abuse of power and 21 counts of money laundering involving nearly 2.3 billion ringgit, which is $569 million, though his sentence has not yet been announced. He is already serving a prison term from a previous 1MDB conviction in 2020 when he was sentenced for embezzlement and money laundering linked to SRC International, a former 1MDB unit. The latest verdict comes after 7 years of legal proceedings, which included testimony from 76 witnesses, and follows the court's earlier rejection of Najib's bid for house arrest. Despite his convictions, Najib retains strong support from some Malaysians, while Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and anti-corruption campaigners have stressed the need to respect the court's decision and strengthen public institutions to prevent future corruption scandals. Somalia has held its first local elections in nearly 60 years, marking a major step in the country's push towards democratic governance. President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed cast his vote in the capital Mogadishu as Somalis voted by universal suffrage in the landmark polls. The president said the vote opened a new chapter towards a peaceful Somalia with leaders chosen through democratic elections. Somalia has endured decades of civil war, political instability, and weak state institutions since the collapse of its central government in 1991. The country continues to face serious challenges, including an ongoing Islamist insurgency and recurring natural disasters. Survivors of a catastrophic fire in Hong Kong are struggling with grief and trauma a month after the disaster that killed 161 people. Among them is 68-year-old Yip Ka Kui, who has turned holiday photos into a tribute to his wife, who died in the blaze that destroyed their home. The fire tore through the Wang Fuk Court public housing complex, one of the deadliest residential fires in the city's history. The scale of the tragedy has shocked Hong Kong, a city widely regarded as one of Asia's safest and most developed. Thousands of families continue to mourn as authorities investigate the cause and assess safety standards in high-density housing. Pope Leo XIV has used his first Christmas address as pontiff to issue a global appeal for peace. Speaking from St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican, he called for solidarity and compassion for people affected by conflict around the world. Addressing a crowd of around 26,000 gathered in St. Peter's Square, the Pope urged prayers for victims of ongoing wars, including those he said are often forgotten. He framed his message around the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem, linking it to hopes for peace and consolation. The Christmas address, known as the Urbi et Orbi message, is a key moment in the Vatican calendar and is broadcast worldwide.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, rallegriamoci è la nostra pace, colui che ha vinto l'odio e
Scientists are racing to gather vital data on penguins and seabirds in East Antarctica as a deadly H5 strain of avian influenza spreads closer to the region. The virus has already been detected on Heard Island in the Southern Ocean, about 2,000 kilometers from Antarctica, where hundreds of elephant seals were found dead, raising concerns it could spread further south. At Berkeley Island, researchers are using drones and tracking equipment to establish baseline population numbers of Adelie penguins and other wildlife before the disease arrives. The highly pathogenic bird flu has caused major losses to bird populations worldwide, and scientists warn it could severely impact Antarctic species if it reaches the continent. Alongside avian influenza, climate change and industrial krill fishing are also threatening penguin populations, making accurate monitoring critical for future conservation efforts. In Shanghai, elderly residents are keeping the city's historic dance hall culture alive through daytime social dances. At a lunchtime dance club, retirees gather under disco lights, reliving a tradition rooted in Shanghai's jazz age past. Many venues across the city host long daytime sessions, some beginning as early as 6 in the morning. The dance halls offer older residents a space for exercise, companionship, and self-expression. Once a defining feature of Shanghai's nightlife, the dance hall culture has found new life among the city's growing elderly population.
Intermittent playing hide and seek with the folk, enchanting one's heart with the sight of fully bloomed rhododendrons, and rejoicing in the lap of nature with the chirping of the birds. When you set foot in Sandakpur, you experience a wonderful feeling of heavenly bliss right here on earth. Due to the ever-changing weather and the snow-white mountains visible right in front of your eyes, Sandakpur constantly draws everyone's heart towards it. As a habitat for numerous species of birds and endangered wildlife, Sandakpur always leaves an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of all. Situated at an altitude of 3,636 meters above the sea level, Sandakpur is located at Ward 2 and 4 of Sandakpur Rural Municipality in Nepal's eastern Ilam district. Embracing the mountains of Nepal, India and Bhutan, Sandakpur is the only place in South Asia where one can observe the Himalayas of all three countries. While enjoying the Himalayan settlements, one can observe the sunrise and sunset from Sandakpur. It is the only place in Nepal from where over 60 mountain peaks, including the Mount Everest, Kanchenjunga, Makalu, Pathivara, and Kumbhakarna can be seen from one spot. Being the source of the holy Mai River, one of the 4 major rivers in Elam, Sandakpur is also revered from a religious standpoint, attracting pilgrims from Sandakpur Ridge. The settlements of Elam, Jhapa, and West Bengal of India seem so close that it feels like you could hold them in the palm of your hand. The crimson glow of the sun rising from the Bay of Bengal in the morning, glittering upon the mountains. The joy of witnessing this form such a height is majestic. That is why in winter for the snow and during the monsoon for the rain, the number of visitors from both home and abroad to Sandakpur is on the rise. Among the different species of rhododendrons found in Nepal, 36 can be spotted just along the Sandakpur trek. The rhododendrons blooming all over the forest captivate every heart. With the chirping of birds, the cliffside honeybees, and the opportunity to study endangered species like the red panda, vultures, while enjoying nature, Sandakpur journey has captivated trekkers from around the world. Every year, more than 150,000 tourists from India, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Europe visit Sandakpur. Known as the Bird's Eye Place, Sandakpur was declared a one province, one cultural village by Nepal government in 2018. However, the place still awaits infrastructures like drinking water, electricity, and proper trekking trails. Sandakpur can be reached after a 42-kilometer ride from the Elam headquarters via Mai Pokhari and Kalu Pokhari. Another route to Sandakpur is from Elam Bazar via Biblate, Sulubung, Mabu, and Kalu Pokhari. When trekking to Sandakpur, the highest point of the Mahabharata range, the joy of staying in the homestays and hotels along the way while savoring local cuisine is immeasurable. While forging a connection with the Himalayan settlements, enjoying herbs and local produce, and playing in the snow in winter and the rain during the monsoon, you must visit Sandakpur at least once in your life.
रामदी मेरो गाउँको नाम। धर्म, संस्कृति, सुन्दरता र शिक्षाको एउटा सुन्दर सम्मिश्रण पाइन्छ यहाँ, जुन अरु कतै बिरलै पाइन्छ।
My name is Parvati. I'm from Kacham. I'm Parvesh Bhusar. I'm from Bhutan. Now I'm living in Ramdi. I'm very happy to learn.
अति महत्त्वपूर्ण र पवित्र मानिने काली गण्डकी नदीको शीतल काखमा बसेको छ रामदी। स्याङ्जा र पाल्पा जिल्लाको केन्द्रमा पर्ने हुनाले रामदीबाट यी दुई जिल्लाका मनमोहक पहाडहरू र ससाना सुन्दर बस्तीहरू देख्न सकिन्छ। शालिग्राम नाम गरेको चम्किलो ढुङ्गा पाइने संसारकै एकमात्र काली गण्डकी नदीमा अंगिरा र वशिष्ठ नदीहरू मिसिदा बन्ने त्रिवेणीको विशेष महत्त्व छ। यस त्रिवेणीमा हरिबोधिनी एकादशी, शिवरात्रि र वैशाख संक्रान्तिका पावन अवसरमा लाग्ने विशेष मेलाहरूमा सामेल हुन पाइन्छ। रामदीमा काली गण्डकी नदी अद्भुत तरिकाले दक्षिणबाट उत्तर भई बहने उत्तर वाहिनी भएको हुँदा यस क्षेत्रको छुट्टै धार्मिक र आध्यात्मिक महत्त्व रहेको जानकारहरू बताउँछन्। यो क्षेत्र प्रसिद्ध ऋषिहरू वशिष्ठ, मार्कण्डेय, कपिलदेव र योगी नरहरिनाथको पवित्र तपोभूमि हो। योगी नरहरिनाथले 2042 सालमा गायत्री मन्त्रबाट विश्व शान्तिका लागि कोटी हवन गरेको यो ऐतिहासिक स्थलमा प्रसिद्ध ऋषि कपिलले सिद्धि प्राप्त गरेको सुनसिद्ध गुफाले आज पनि धार्मिक तथा रमणीय पर्यटकहरूको मन लोभ्याइरहेको छ। यस गुफाको सुरुङ साँगुरो भएकाले र अन्त्य पत्ता नलागेकाले यो थप आकर्षणको केन्द्र बनेको छ।
यहाँ एक स्टेप हुन्छ, त्यहाँ अर्को स्टेप हुन्छ, त्यहाँ तल्लो अझै अर्को ठुलो स्टेप छ, 1500 जना अट्ने ठाउँ छ तल।
रामदीमा थुप्रै पर्यटकीय स्थलहरू छन्। यहाँ रहेका गायत्री मन्दिर, राधाकृष्ण मन्दिर, शिव मन्दिर आदि धार्मिक आस्थाका केन्द्रहरू हुन्। सँगै रहेको गौशालामा केही समय टहल्दा पर्यटकहरूलाई बेग्लै आनन्दको अनुभूति हुन्छ। रामदीको प्रमुख आकर्षण त्यहाँ रहेको राम नदी आश्रम हो। यो आश्रममा आध्यात्म, संस्कार, कला, शिक्षा र नयाँ पुस्ता बीचको आनन्दमय सहकार्य देख्न सकिन्छ। संस्कृत भाषामा दखल राखेका नयाँ पुस्ताको योग भजन कीर्तन मात्र नभई अङ्ग्रेजी भाषामा पकड राख्ने र पुराना भजनदेखि नयाँ गीतहरूको गायनले आश्रम घुम्न जाने हर कोहीलाई चकित र मन्त्रमुग्ध बनाइदिन्छ। यसरी प्रकृतिको कोख र नदीहरूको काखमा बसेको रामदीमा हर कोहीलाई आकर्षित र अचम्मित गर्ने धेरै अद्भुत कुराहरू रहेका छन्।
Music, dance, food, art and devotion are the lifeblood of Newar culture, an ancient civilization rooted in the Kathmandu Valley of Nepal. With lively festivals nearly every fortnight, the Newars celebrate life through a rich tapestry of traditions known as Jatra.
A city known for its legacy, Kirtipur. Locals also call it Kipu in their own dialect. It is the largest ancient settlement after Kathmandu, Lalitpur and Bhaktapur. The city still has an impressive Malla-era neighborhood. It is also home to Taudaha, the largest lake in the Kathmandu Valley. There are temples, monasteries, bihars, and stupas for both Hindu and Buddhist devotees, along with countless festivals and ritual celebrations that altogether give Kirtipur its distinct and special character. With its ancient Newar settlements, this place is a beautiful convergence of Newar culture and heritage. The 2nd century settlements here, the temples and the stupas, along with the legends and the faiths surrounding them, are fascinating. Situated beside the Kathmandu Valley, which once was a natural lake itself, Kirtipur developed as a flourishing hub of early settlement and culture. Because of this, the area is exceptionally valuable for historical and cultural study. A long time ago, the children of Kirtipur's farming families apparently made a clay tiger to play with while herding sheep and goats. To make that tiger look even more lifelike, they wanted to add a tongue. So they left their sheep and goats nearby and went into the forest to gather leaves. Upon returning, the children found their sheep and goats missing. And when they investigated, the clay tiger opened its blood-red mouth and claimed to have eaten the animals. Apparently, what had happened was that the deity Bhairav, a Hindu deity, had entered the clay tiger. In their anger, the children then cursed the clay tiger so that its mouth would remain perpetually open. This is the famous legend behind the Bagh Bhairav temple as remembered by the residents of Kirtipur. Bagh Bhairav is the revered deity of Kirtipur's residents. Situated in Kirtipur, this temple is accompanied by several smaller temples, many of which can be traced back to the 2nd century according to the historical records. Among them are temples dedicated to Yamaleshwar, Narayan, Bhavani Shankar, Ramchandra, Manavinayak, Vishwakarma, Sridhar Vishnu and Mool Ganesh, all of which were constructed in the 2nd century as per many inscriptions. The historical records mention that the Bagh Bhairav temple, originally made by Shivadev, was again renovated in the 16th century by Jagatpal Varma into a 3-tiered pagoda style. This makes the temple a central attraction of Kirtipur. Most Newar settlements, which are one of Nepal's ethnic groups, are adorned with temples and stupas. So Kirtipur is home to countless temples and stupas as well, too many to count by hand. The Uma Maheshwar temple here is located at the highest point in Kirtipur. From here, one can take in panoramic views of the entire Kathmandu Valley. Swayambhu, an ancient Buddhist stupa, is clearly visible from this vantage point. It is said that the temple's elevation is roughly the same as that of Swayambhu's. On clear days, the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, can also be seen from here. Uma Maheshwar, representing the Hindu deities of Shiva and Parvati in another form, is considered a symbol of family happiness and love. The temple's tiered roofs, its design, the surrounding houses, and the views are not only beautiful but also reflect its historical significance. It is an excellent place to explore and spend an entire day. Kirtipur is special not only for Hindu devotees but also for Buddhists. Its stupas and bihars are ideal for the study, research, and promotion of Buddhism. The Chilanchu Stupa, located atop the hill, is said by historians to have been built during Emperor Ashok's visit to Nepal. Its renovation, however, took place in the 16th century during the time of Jagatpal Varma. This site is ideal for prayer and meditation. It feels like Chilanchu spreads wisdom along with its fluttering flags under the open sky. It is said that seeing the hills surrounding the Chilanchu Stupa, Prithvi Narayan Shah, the 18th century king who unified Nepal, coveted Kirtipur. His attempts to capture Kirtipur, intended to make conquering Kathmandu, Bhaktapur and Patan easier, only succeeded on the third try.
किर्तिपुरको चाहिँ लोकेसनै अलिकति स्ट्रेटेजिकली एकदम महत्त्वपूर्ण लोकेसनमा छ हैन किनभने किर्तिपुर अब पृथ्वीनारायण शाहलाई पनि के लाग्यो भने किर्तिपुर यो डाँडाकोमा छ डाँडामाथि छ डाँडामा चाहिँ एउटा त्यति बेला चाहिँ किल्लाको रूपमा पनि थियो हैन त्यो भएको हुनाले चाहिँ किर्तिपुर जित्यो भने अरु चाहिँ सजिलै जित्न सकिन्छ भन्ने खालको पृथ्वीनारायण शाहलाई पनि लागेको थियो हैन त्यसले गर्दाखेरि उले चाहिँ काठमाडौँ भ्यालीलाई वा काठमाडौँ यो जुन तीनवटा शहर र यो भ्यालीलाई आफ्नो कन्ट्रोलमा राख्न अगाडि सबभन्दा पहिला किर्तिपुरमा कन्ट्रोल लिन सक्यो भने यहाँबाट चाहिँ अनि चाहिँ अरु एरियामा चाहिँ सजिलैसँग कन्ट्रोलमा लिन सकिन्छ भन्ने हिसाबले चाहिँ उले चाहिँ यसलाई चाहिँ टार्गेट बनाएको हो एउटा कुरा त यो स्ट्रेटेजिकली उचाइमा परेको हुनाले र यसमा पनि यहाँको कोर बस्ती भनेको चाहिँ डाँडाबाट माथि आउनु पर्ने र त्यति बेला तपाईले सुन्न भए पनि होला किर्तिपुर चाहिँ पुरा गढ पर्खालले घेरिएको थियो त्यो घेरिएको हुनु र चाहिँ त्यहाँ चाहिँ 12 वटा ढोकाहरू चाहिँ थियो र 12 वटा ढोकाबाट मात्र प्रवेश गर्न सकिने त्यस्तो भएको हुनाले चाहिँ एउटा चाहिँ स्ट्रेटेजिकली एउटा चाहिँ यो कोर्टको रूपमा वा चाहिँ गढको रूपमा चाहिँ विकास भएको पाइन्छ फर्स्ट वारमा चाहिँ कालुपाँडे चाहिँ बर्ड भयो कालुपाँडे मार्यो त्यसपछि चाहिँ के भनाइ छ भने किर्तिपुरहरूले चाहिँ कालुपाँडेको टाउको बोकेर हैन त्यहाँ चाहिँ जात्रा गरेको हामी जित्यौं भनेर जात्रा गर्यो भन्ने छ अब त्यो हिस्टोरिकली छ कतिको फ्याक्ट छ थाहा छैन त्यसले गरेर त्यो भनेको चाहिँ त्यो पनि अब त्यो रिस्क छ नि पृथ्वीनारायण शाहलाई अनि अर्को के छ भने सेकेन्ड वारमा चाहिँ फेरि चाहिँ आफ्नै भाइको चाहिँ आँखा फुटिएको छ हैन त्यसरी दुई पल्ट चाहिँ उले चाहिँ एकदमै हार त्यो पनि हार पनि एकदमै हार मात्र हैन त्यो अब कालुपाँडेको टाउको बोकेर हैन पुरा खुसियालले मनाउनु भनेको त्यसले गरेको चाहिँ एकदमै त्यो ह्युमिलिएट भएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि पछि जब उ सत्तामा आयो भए चाहिँ जब उले कन्ट्रोलमा लियो उले चाहिँ बर्बर तरिकाले नै यो किर्तिपुरहरूलाई पनि दुःख दिनुपर्छ भनेर दुःख दिएकै हो
This stupa houses the Pancha Buddha, the depiction of 5 knowledge of Buddha. Facing east is Akshobhya, mounted on an elephant and with earth-touching gestures. Facing south is Ratnasambhav, mounted on a horse and showing the Varad Mudra, which is a gesture of generosity and granting boons. Facing north is Amitabh, seated on a peacock in the meditation mudra. symbolizing infinite light and compassion. Facing west is Amogha, seated on a Garud with the Nag hood in Abhay Mudra, a gesture of fearlessness and protection. At the center sits Vairochan, mounted on a lion and invisible, imparting profound knowledge of Buddhism. The presence of these 5 Buddhas is believed to guide those who have lost their way, whether it is in spiritual seeking or in travel. The stupas, vajras, and stone statues here are enchanting, capable of captivating visitors for hours. In Panga of Kirtipur, there is a cremation site. The deceased of the Panga community are cremated here, but this place is different from others. According to local tradition, one cannot stay behind after setting the body on fire. Normally, in other places in Hindu tradition, after the cremation, the ashes are collected after a process that can take up to hours. Here, however, bodies are covered with 9 pieces of wood for adults and 7 for children, along with water-soaked straw. Then the fire is lit before it is time to leave the site. This tradition is only for the people of Panga. Next to the burial ground stands the Vishnu Devi temple, one of the several Shakti Peeth or sacred power sites of the people of Kirtipur. The area is peaceful and known for its spiritual atmosphere. Kirtipur is not only famous for its monasteries and chaityas, it is also rich in history and culture. This place is known for its year-round festivals, rituals, and vibrant cultural way of life. Among the important festivals are the Satgaunle Jatra, Gai Jatra, Bagh Bhairav Jatra, and Indrayani Jatra. On the day of Gai Jatra, a special dance is performed here. The Dhya Dhya Papa dance, also called Katmar, is a ceremonial performance where dancers in unique costumes move to traditional music. It is an integral part of Kirtipur's cultural identity. Here, visitors can also find various hotels, homestays, and Newari restaurants. The Newari-style houses and pathways decorated with traditional materials are truly captivating, and the popular Newari restaurants, which draw people from all around, are plentiful. A beautiful example of Newari culture is Newari food, which include famous dishes like para, yomari, and samay bhaji. And visitors relish these dishes with great enjoyment.
अनि अरु भनेको यो सफुमिजा पनि विशेष मान्छेले रुचाउने समय बजी बारा विभिन्न मान्छे पछि फरक छ तर विशेष चाहिँ समय बजी सफुमिजा भेरे आउनुहुन्छ अनि छाङ रक्सी विशेष यहाँको गहना जस्तै नै नेवालानामा यहाँको छाङ रक्सी भनेको एकदमै ओरिजिनल हैन ओरिजिनालिटी भएर चाहिँ मान्छेहरु यहाँको खानामा या छाङ रक्सीमा पनि कुनै मिसावट नभएको चाहिँ प्रुफ भएर चाहिँ सबै मान्छे छाङ खानाको लागि पनि आउनुहुन्छ समय बजीमा अब 12 थरी 13 थरी छन् हैन त्यो पनि हाम्रो शरीरको अर्गानिकमा सबै ठाउँमा चाहिँ सबैमा चाहिने हामी यो विशेष हाम्रो चाहिँ एउटा चाहिँ के भनौँ शुभ दिनमा चाहिँ हामी यो पूजासजा गरेर समयपछि खाने चलन छ भने यो खाली पेटमा होइन त्यो भनेको एउटा राम्रो स्वास्थ्यको लागि एकदमै राम्रो समयपछि भयो। अनि भोज चाहिँ हाम्रो एकदमै वैज्ञानिकता होइन अब एकदमै राम्रो तरिकाले चाहिँ नेवारी भोज चाहिँ खुवाउने गर्छौँ हामी। विशेष यहाँदेखि यो पाचन शक्तिलाई पनि एकदमै ध्यानमा राखेर चाहिँ यो पछि यो भनेर तातो चिसो मिलाएर चाहिँ अन्त्यसम्म चाहिँ खुवाउने चाहिँ एकदमै शरीरको लागि चाहिँ साइन्टिफिक प्रुफ नै छ क्या हाम्रो खानामा चाहिँ।
Just before entering Kirtipur, you arrive at another beautiful spot, Taudaha. Known for its environmental, cultural, and religious significance, this pond stretches about 500 meters in length and 400 meters in width. It is said to be shaped like a funnel. Believed to be dwelling place of Karkotak Nag, a serpent king in Hindu-Buddhist mythology, this lake is closely linked to the legends of Manjushri, a Hindu-Buddhist mythological figure, and the Rato Machindranath Jatra. According to the folklore, when the Kathmandu Valley was still a lake, Manjushri cut open the hills to draw the water. The serpents living there were left without a home, so Bhimsen, a powerful heroic figure in Nepali folklore, created Taudaha to shelter them. The famous photo or vest displayed during the Rato Machindranath Jatra also traces its origins to Karkotak Nagraj and Taudaha. Legend says the vest belonged to Karkotak Nagraj, who gifted it to a farmer after the farmer cured his sick serpent queen.
हाम्रो भ्याली चाहिँ एउटा लेक थियो भन्ने चाहिँ छ। अनि त्यो लेक हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ अब मञ्जुश्री चाहिँ आइपुग्नु भयो यो काठमाडौँ भ्यालीमा। अनि उहाँले चाहिँ अब यहाँ चाहिँ तपाईको मानव बस्ती बसाउँछु भनेर एउटा सोच राख्नुभयो। त्यो क्रममा चाहिँ तपाईको जुन एउटा भ्याली चाहिँ लेक थियो अनि त्यसपछि त्यहाँ तपाईको बीचमा एउटा कमलको फूल थियो अनि त्यसबाट चाहिँ स्वयम्भूनाथ चाहिँ स्थापना भयो भनेर चाहिँ हाम्रो त्यसलाई रिलेट गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ अनि तपाईको मञ्जुश्रीले चाहिँ यो ठाउँमा चाहिँ मानव बस्ती बसाउनको लागि तपाईको यो चोबार हाम्रो चोबारको गलछेडो चाहिँ काट्नु भयो। अनि त्यसपछि त्यो कमलको फूल चाहिँ तपाईको स्वयम्भू भयो। अनि त्यसपछि त्यो गलछेडोबाट चाहिँ तपाईको अब सबै पानी सँगसँगै पानीमा हुने सबै चीज बगेर जाने भयो। अनि त्यो चाहिँ तपाईको नागहरू पनि त्यसमा पर्यो। अनि नाग चाहिँ तपाईको त्यो नाग गएपछि चाहिँ अब यो पानी नपर्ने खडेरी लाग्ने तपाईको विभिन्न हिस्ट्री किम्वदन्ती अनुसार तपाईको अनि त्यो हुन्छ भनेर चाहिँ हाम्रो कर्कोटक नाग राजालाई चाहिँ तपाईको यहाँ ल्याएर चाहिँ मञ्जुश्रीले स्थापना गर्नुभयो भन्ने चाहिँ एउटा किम्वदन्ती छ। मसिन्द्रनाथ चाहिँ तपाईको पानीको देवता भनेर पनि चिन्छौँ हामीले। पानीको लागि चाहिँ मसिन्द्रनाथको पूजा गर्ने यो हाम्रो जात्रा गर्ने यो चाहिँ तपाईको त्योसँग भयो। अनि प्लस तपाईको त्यो जुन मसिन्द्रनाथको तपाईको भोटो चाहिँ जुन भोटो चाहिँ त्यो जात्रामा देखाइन्छ त्यो भोटो पनि हाम्रो यहाँको नागले चाहिँ तपाईको दिनुभएको भन्ने चाहिँ एउटा किम्वदन्ती छ। त्यो चाहिँ तपाईको यहाँको नागको चाहिँ तपाईको एउटा किसानले चाहिँ उपचार गरिदिनु भएको थियो आँखाको। अनि त्यो उपचार गरिदिएपछि चाहिँ त्यो चाहिँ तपाईको एउटा गिफ्ट यो भोटो चाहिँ तपाईलाई भनेर किसानलाई दिनुभएको थियो। र त्यो किसान चाहिँ तपाईको काम गर्दा गर्दै खेतमा बारीमा एउटा काम गर्दा गर्दै तपाईको त्यो भोटो राखेर तपाईको काम गरिरहँदाखेरि चाहिँ एउटा भूतले चाहिँ तपाईको त्यो भोटो चोरेर लग्यो अरे। अनि त्यसपछि त्यो भोटो चाहिँ तपाईको चोरेर लाँदाखेरि अनि फेरि त्यो खोज्दाखेरि अब कहीँ पत्ता लागेन। अनि एक दिन चाहिँ यही जात्रामा तपाईको जात्रामा गइराख्दाखेरि चाहिँ तपाईको त्यो भोटो लाएर आएको चाहिँ देखेर त्यो किसानले अनि मेरो भोटो भनेर त्यहाँ अब वार भयो भनौँ न। अनि त्यसपछि त्यो भोटो चाहिँ अनि त्यसपछि त्यहाँ जस मसिन्द्रनाथले चाहिँ लिएर यो चाहिँ प्रमाण जसले ल्याउन सक्छ भोटोको मेरो हो भनेर उसैको हुन्छ यो भोटो भनेर चाहिँ तपाईको त्यो मचिन्द्रनाथको जात्रामा चाहिँ हाम्रो त्यो भोटो देखाउने चलन छ र त्यसलाई चाहिँ त्यसरी रिलेटेड छ यो चाहिँ हामीसँग
Taudaha is rich not only in religious and cultural significance but also in biodiversity. The area is home to 38 species of plants, 36 species of insects, and 116 types of birds. Swans gliding across the lake, birds perched in nearby trees, colorful fish swimming below, and small snakes seen occasionally along the banks. All of it make it easy to lose track of time while observing this vibrant ecosystem. In winter, birds migrate here from Siberia, Mongolia, and Tibet to escape the cold. Species such as lahari, kalihas, khoya, malak, and birds like great cormorant and Indian pond heron are also found here at Taudaha. These migratory birds travel thousands of kilometers from various countries to reach this lake. As a wetland area, Taudaha hosts water, land, vegetation, aquatic animals, amphibians, and other wildlife all in one place. For this reason, the lake attracts everyone from casual tourists to students conducting research.
स्वदेशी पर्यटकहरू चाहिँ महिनामा मैले भन्नुपर्दा एभरेजमा भन्छु हैन 10 देखि 15,000 सम्म आउनुहुन्छ विदेशी पर्यटकहरू पनि आउनुहुन्छ 500 देखि महिनामा 1000 सम्म आन्तरिक पर्यटकहरू आउनुहुन्छ अनि हाम्रो यो पुस माघ जुन जाडो सिजन हुन्छ नि त्यसमा चाहिँ यो बच्चाहरूको यो शैक्षिक भ्रमणमा आउने बच्चाहरू चाहिँ धेरै त्यो सिजनमा चाहिँ धेरै बच्चाहरू ल्याउनुहुन्छ अनि अघि पछि पनि हाम्रो शैक्षिक भ्रमणमा बच्चाहरू स्कुलबाट पनि आउनुहुन्छ अनि प्लस यो अब कलेजका विद्यार्थीहरू जुन इन्भाइरोमेन्ट साइन्स पढ्ने विद्यार्थीहरू हुन्छन् हैन त्यस्ताहरू पनि अब यो पानीको माछाको इनहरुको पनि रिसर्च गर्न पनि विद्यार्थीहरू आउनुहुन्छ यहाँ नेपालीलाई चाहिँ पर पर्सन 30 रुपैयाँ छ विदेशीलाई 50 रुपैयाँ अनि हाम्रो जुन स्कुल कलेजबाट शैक्षिक भ्रमणमा आउनुहुन्छ नि उहाँहरूलाई चाहिँ हामीले 50% डिस्काउन्ट दिन्छौँ.
As tourist numbers increase, so have vendors selling fish feed around Taudaha. These traders who stay around the lake from morning to evening occasionally also encounter snakes. But believing the snakes to represent Karkotak Nagraj, the traders drive them away by just burning incense.
बिहान 10 बजेतिर आउँछु अनि 5 बजेसम्म बस्छु अब कहिले 10 किलो निस्किदिन्छ कहिले 5 किलो कहिले अब यस्तै 1-2 किलो मात्रै जान्छ म बसेको चाहिँ भयो 14 वर्ष भयो अब पहिला भनेको व्यापार त्यति हुन्थेन अब अहिले भनेको जस बिहान बेलुका खानालाई चाहिँ पुग्छ दिनको कहिले 1000-1200 नि हुन्छ कहिले 2000-2500 नि हुन्छ कहिले 1-200 हुन्छ कहिले 20 रुपैयाँ मात्रै नि हुन्छ त्यो चाहिँ हुँदैन जस सँगाली राख्दाखेरि महिनामा 8-10 हजार चाहिँ हुन्छ परारको साल कताबाट सर्बो आए देखिन मैले हैन पछि चाहिँ मेरो डडालामा आइपुग्या त्यो सर्बो अनि म डडै मैले आँखा चिम्ले अनि सुल्ल आफै सर्बो चाहिँ उता तलतिर गयो पहरीतिरै.
Just before reaching Taudaha, Chobar is a unique tourist spot in Kirtipur. Manjushri Park here is one of the popular picnic destinations. The cave, Chobar Gorge, Suspension Bridge, Jalvinayak Temple and Adinath Lokeshwar Temple are all must-visit sites. This gorge is said to be where Manjushri cut the hills to drain water from the Kathmandu Valley, making it suitable for human settlement. Therefore, this place holds historical and mythological significance. Jalvinayak Temple is located along the Bagmati River. Among Kathmandu Valley's 4 main Ganesh temples, Surya Vinayak, Chandra Vinayak and Ashok Vinayak, Jalvinayak is one of them. It is built in traditional pagoda style. Toran or archways, tudal or roof struts, and gajur or pinnacles enhance its architectural beauty. So this temple is significant both for religious faith and for historical and architectural value. Spread over 14.76 square kilometers, Kirtipur has many places to explore, which cannot be fully visited in a single day. Its heritage, lifestyle, and festivals are all unique. To guide tourists before visiting, a tourist information and service center has been established. It lies near the Kirtipur's entry point. This center provides information about major tourist attractions and helps make the visit easier. Exploring Kirtipur's historical, religious, cultural, and natural sites is incredibly enchanting. These sites are witnesses to history. For research and study, visiting Kirtipur is essential. The local lifestyle, daily life, the breeze, and the scent of the soil here, all of it are very special. In modern times, as ancient civilizations threaten to vanish, Kirtipur strives to maintain its ancient identity. Its monasteries, temples, chaityas, ponds, markets, and even the language reflect this heritage. Kirtipur is not just a tourist destination. It offers experiences of meditation and knowledge, and of peace and beauty. Its stories and hospitality attract everyone. To witness and feel the unique confluence of history, culture, and nature, visiting Kirtipur is a must, not just once, but again and again.
At every bend of the serpentine Bheri River, a new face of nature emerges. Each turn revealing a beauty so varied and mesmerizing that it moves the heart moment by moment. Traveling from Chinchu of Surkhet through Jare and Mehelkuna toward Gorbakot, the Bheri displays its quiet miracles. Over its crystal blue flow drifts the rustle and chirping of dozens of birds. The whisper of nearby trees merges with the vast blue sky, reflecting a harmony of natural splendor. Cutting through Chinchu, heading along the proud and scenic terrain of Gorbakot, our thoughts find themselves racing steadily along the Madan Bhandari highway toward Lake Besi in Surkhet. Our destination, the Raute settlement. We seek to observe closely the lifestyle of this indigenous group, long perceived as distant. We hope to feel a sense of closeness with a community rarely encountered, where the Raute, in their most authentic form, stand before us to share their stories. The Raute have cultivated a unique identity as Nepal's nomadic ethnic group. If someone in their settlement dies, they immediately abandon that location and do not return for 10 years, a tradition that makes permanent settlement extremely challenging. Their temporary homes are built by fixing wooden stakes into the ground, tying cross pieces, and covering the structure with old cloth and tarpaulin.
सधैँभरि यो पुर्खा मेरो पुर्खौली त्यस्तो छ त्यस्तो नभइदिए भए एक ठाउँमा बस्ने थियो एक ठाउँमा नभए यो हजुरलाई हल्दुवार यो घर बनाउँछौँ त्यस्तो घर हामी मन पर्दैन मेरो मन परेको यही यस्तै चिरपाल तागा तागाको राम्रो हुन्छ हामीले यस्तै मन पराउँछ यही गाडो लगाएर राम्रो मान्छौँ अब पहिले हेर्न जानु पर्यो पहिला सबै त्यो हेर्न तपाई आफै यो हामी आफू त जाँदैन केटाउडु जान्छ त केटाउडु गएर फेरि हेरेर ठाउँ राम्रो छ कि नराम्रो छ कि भनेर ठाउँ यो जहाँ ठाउँ राम्रो भयो त्यही जाने यस्तै पाखामा को बस्न सक्छ र यस्तै समूह जग्गा चाहियो.
Especially during winter, protecting themselves from the cold becomes difficult. They sleep on the bare ground with only thin tarpaulins, not enough clothing to cover their bodies fully. Men wear a loincloth and wrap their backs with coarse cloth, knotted in front and falling to the thighs, with a cap or a small turban on their heads. Women wear a short, patterned skirt of rough fabric and a handmade blouse that covers only part of the torso and chest. Women adorn themselves with earrings, necklaces and bracelets made of iron, brass and aluminum. When we visited in late Kartik, the cold had already set in, yet the Raute sat on the ground as usual. Even when ill, they rely solely on their chieftain, traditional healing practices and herbal remedies. The Raute tell that the community consists of 3 clans, Patyal, Raskoti and Samalvanshi Shahi. According to the national census of 2021, Raute population stands at 566. It was 618 in the 2011 census.
बात यो कोही मान्छे यो पहिला पहिला त आया थिएन अब आजभोलि त यो चामल पनि आउँछ भट्टा पनि लाग्यो हो कि होइन चामल पनि आउँछ यो तिरपाल पनि आउँछ ब्ल्याङ्केट आउँछ खाना पुग्यो त भइगयो अब भोकै मरेको छैन के अरे बाहिरबाट आए भने कामधारी त गर्नु पर्यो हो कि होइन त्यो काम कुसी बनाउनु पर्यो मधुस बनाउनु पर्यो खाद बनाउनु पर्छ अब दराजहरू हामी बनाउँदैन हजुर.
Traditionally, the Raute have lived in the forests, ravines and riverbanks of districts like Dailek, Jajarkot, Surkhet, Acham, Salyan, Dang and Kalikot. They dwell in the wilderness, hunt monkeys and carve wooden utensils which they exchange for grain in nearby villages. It's a cycle that sustains their livelihood. The Raute have distinct marriage customs. After marriage, a separate area is set aside for the couple. According to Raute belief, a widow should not remarry after her husband's death. Marriages occur strictly within their own community between Raute youths. Apart from cooking pots at home, an axe for cutting trees, and a chisel-like tool for shaping wood, the Raute do not store belongings. Men prefer to hunt monkeys using traps, while women gather wild roots and tubers. With just an axe and chisel, they craft wooden utensils. Once, the Raute believed touching money would bring misfortune. They also avoided speaking with outsiders. But today, they readily ask anyone for money, an indicator of the slow transformation in their lifestyle and consumption habits.
1000 हुन्छ 100 रुपैयाँ हुन्छ 500 हुन्छ 50 रुपैयाँ हुन्छ 20 रुपैयाँ हुन्छ 5 रुपैयाँ हुन्छ 10 रुपैयाँ हुन्छ आधा आमा दिने आधा
आमा राखेको पैसा चाहिँ के गर्ने
बाख्रा ल्याउने
बाख्रा ल्याउने
बाख्रा सल्ल नुन खुर्सानी तेल बिसार सबै ल्याउने मेरो नाम फुलमाया
कति वर्षको भयो
म 18 भयो
अनि स्कुल जाँदैन
स्कुल त जान थियो पहिला त जान दिएन आज बोले पनि स्कुल जान दिन्न
कसले मुखियाले किन नि
मुखियाले नि पढ्न लेख्न दिन्न त
किन होला त त्यस्तो
खै के पो होला नि मुखियाले दिन्न नि
र
पढ्न जान त मन त लाग्छ तर पढ्न दिन्न.
In recent years, increasing dependence on alcohol has begun to create serious health issues within the community.
कहीं न कहीं यो यहाँ जंगल में बसने बाजार हेर्न जाने बरु चिस्टोडा आडा माइने मान्छेमा कसैले बजारको नासै हुन्छ त्यो नास हेर्न जाने कसैले यो मौसुक लाग्छ त्यस्तो मौसुक यो जंगलबाट मौसुक हेरे पनि झन् आउन मान्छे यो मेरो परिवर्तन नगर्ने मान्छे परिवर्तन गरेको कहिले पनि राम्रो भन्दैन हामी मेरो पुर्खैबाट यो परिवर्तन नगरेको मान्छे परिवर्तन गरेको यो पैसा चाहिँ आँखाले पैसा चिनेता भइहाल्यो.
Nepal's constitution not only recognizes the equal existence, rights and dignity of all ethnic groups, but also ensures fair protection, upliftment, empowerment and development of marginalized and endangered communities. The state has pledged equal distribution of economic, social and cultural opportunities with special provisions for the protection and advancement of disadvantaged people within minority groups. Although the federal and provincial governments have introduced various programs for the Raute community in recent years, the lives of the Raute have yet to see the meaningful improvement envisioned.
Former Nepal Army Lieutenant General Balananda Sharma sworn in as the country's new Foreign Affairs Minister. Cabinet expands to 15 members. Nepal steps up political dialogue ahead of parliamentary elections. Government spokesperson's effort aimed at ensuring free and fair polls. Nepal marks 5th National Senior Citizens Day. Rising elderly population in Nepal sparks debate on perks, social security and value of their contributions. U.S. military targets Islamic State in northwest Nigeria. Joint operation aims to curb militant activities along Niger border. Former Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak found guilty in corruption trial. 25 charges linked to $569 million corruption case. And cricket coach Jagat Bahadur Tamata appointed to the National Sports Council. 4 other sports experts serving alongside for a 4-year term. Good evening, I'm Bijata Bhandari and you're watching NTV World News Hour, coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours. Now the news in detail. Former Nepal Army Lieutenant General Balananda Sharma has been sworn in as the country's new Minister for Foreign Affairs. President Ramchandra Paudel administered the oath of office on the recommendation of Prime Minister Sushila Karki. Sharma, who previously served as a senior commander in the Nepal Army, was appointed earlier today following a cabinet recommendation by the Prime Minister. The oath-taking ceremony was held at President's office in Kathmandu. The appointment brings a former military leader into a key civilian diplomatic role at a time when Nepal is heading to fresh elections on March 5 next year. Nepal government is stepping up consultations with major political parties ahead of the parliamentary elections scheduled for February 21. Minister for Communications and Information Technology Jagdish Kharel met separately with Nepali Congress President Sher Bahadur Deuba, CPN-UML Chairman KP Sharma Oli and Nepal Communist Party Coordinator Pushpa Kamal Dahal today. The Nepali Congress President confirmed his party's commitment to participate in the elections, urging the government to ensure a free and fair process. Discussions with Oli and Dahal focused on the current political situation, national consensus, and preparations for a smooth vote. The government says it is working closely with all major parties to maintain stability and hold credible elections on schedule. Nepal today observed the 5th National Senior Citizens Day under the theme Our Shared Mission, Respect and Honor for Senior Citizens. This day marks the launch of the government's monthly allowance program for seniors, which was first introduced in 1994. Individuals aged 60 and above are recognized as senior citizens, with the 2078 census reporting around 3 million or 10% of the population. Despite government programs, many elderly face physical, economic, and mental challenges, with some lacking family support and relying on government-run old-age homes. Advocates stress that senior citizens are living history and deserve protection, yet many remain alone in old-age homes, at temples, or public spaces. The United States carried out air and missile strikes against Islamic State targets in northwestern Nigeria on Christmas Day. The Pentagon released footage showing a missile launch from a U.S. naval vessel, describing the operation as aimed at militants operating in the region. President Donald Trump called the strikes powerful and deadly and warned of further action if attacks on Christians continue. Nigeria also confirmed the strikes, saying its security cooperation with the United States, which includes intelligence exchange and strategic coordination. Meanwhile, in Malaysia, former Prime Minister Najib Razak has been found guilty of abuse of power and money laundering in his second 1MDB trial. Najib, 72, was found guilty of 4 counts of abuse of power and 21 counts of money laundering involving nearly 2.3 billion ringgit, which is approximately $569 million, though his sentence has not yet been announced. He is already serving a prison term from a previous 1MDB conviction in 2020, when he was sentenced for embezzlement and money laundering linked to SRC International, a former 1MDB unit. The latest verdict comes after 7 years of legal proceedings, which included testimony from 76 witnesses, and follows the court's earlier rejection of Najib's bid for house arrest. Cricket coach Jagat Bahadur Tamata has been appointed as member of the National Sports Council along with 4 other individuals. Minister for Youth and Sports Bablu Gupta appointed Tamata along with Shanta Kumar Mahata from Athletics, Kumar Lama Ghising from Taekwondo, Rajesh Kharka and Prayas Karki for a 4-year term. Coach Tamata, who has been the man behind the Nepali cricket success story from senior team to the age group, has been rewarded for his contribution. Talking to NTV World, Tamata said he is ready to serve the term in the best of his abilities and also thanked all the well-wishers for the support and cooperation. Nepal swears in a former army personnel as foreign minister amid election preparations, while the cabinet approves work permits for Iraq returnees and sets up many district offices. Political parties ramp up talks to ensure smooth polls in coming March. This and more, we take a look at our issue of the day after the break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World News Hour. Former Nepal Army Lieutenant General Balananda Sharma has been sworn in as the country's new Minister for Foreign Affairs. President Ramchandra Paudel administered the oath of office on the recommendation of Prime Minister Sushila Karki. Sharma, who previously served as a senior commander in the Nepal Army, was appointed earlier today following a cabinet recommendation by the Prime Minister. The oath-taking ceremony was held at the President's office in Kathmandu. The appointment brings a former military leader into a key civilian diplomatic role at a time when Nepal is heading to fresh elections on March 5 next year. Nepalis who have an authorized visa and have worked in Iraq can now obtain a work permit in Nepal. Applicants must submit the application along with the original residency card and a photocopy upon arrival. The decision to this was made during a cabinet meeting held this evening. In other government decisions, area administration offices will be established in 9 districts of the country. The cabinet also approved the organizational structure and staff adjustment in the Home Ministry, endorsed the citizenship regulation, which is the 4th Amendment, and declared December 19 as National Mushroom Day. Likewise, a directive for sending trainee workers to Japan has been scrapped. Spokesperson and Minister for Communications and Information Technology, Jagdish Kharil, shared the updates following the cabinet meeting held on Friday. Nepal's government has intensified consultations with leaders of the country's major political parties as it seeks to build consensus and ensure a smooth run-up to parliamentary elections scheduled for March 5, 2026. Minister for Communications and Information Technology Jagdish Kharil held separate meetings with Nepali Congress President Sher Bahadur Deuba, CPN-UML Chairman KP Sharma Oli, and Nepal Communist Party Coordinator Pushpa Kamal Dahal today. At a meeting at Deuba's residence in Kathmandu, the former Prime Minister confirmed that the Nepali Congress has already decided to take part in the elections and has begun preparations. The minister later met KP Sharma Oli at his residence, where discussions focused on the current political situation and preparations for the upcoming vote. Talks were also held with Pushpa Kamal Dahal at his home, centering on maintaining national consensus and ensuring the successful conduct of the elections. The government says it is actively engaging with all major political forays to create a stable political environment and to ensure that the House of Representatives elections are held on time and in a credible manner. The Election Commission has stated that all preparations for the elections scheduled for March 5 are complete and there will be no changes to the election timetable. Acting Chief Election Commissioner Ram Prasad Bhandari stated that there is no need for any further discussions on whether the elections will take place or not.
निर्वाचन आयोग त निर्वाचन हुँदैन कि हुन्छ कि अब के कसो लगाएका यी विषयवस्तुको सफल सकियो हामीले पिट पाइसक्यौं टुङ्गाइसक्यौं अब त्यो विषयमा प्रवेश गर्दैन हामी निर्वाचनको बाटोमा धेरै अगाडि बढिसक्यौं अब फर्किन सक्ने अवस्था र स्थिति नै हुँदैन र निर्वाचनमा सबैलाई सक्रिय सहभागी गराएर नयाँ जनप्रतिनिधिहरू ल्याएर सुशासन प्रवाह गर्न सक्षम व्यक्तित्वहरूलाई संसदमा पठाउने तपाईँ हाम्रो दायित्व हो।
Signatories of the Nepali Congress Special General Convention have submitted a memorandum to the party's central office, reminding the party's leadership that a proposal for a special general convention had been officially registered. They submitted the memo to Acting President Purna Bahadur Kharka today. Although a date had been set for the party's regular general convention, the memorandum was submitted as the convention could not be held on the scheduled date. According to leader Devraj Chalise, the memorandum proposes that the special general convention be held starting January 13, 2026. Party General Secretaries Gagan Thapa and Bishwa Prakash Sharma stated that if the regular general convention cannot be held on a scheduled date, the party rules automatically allow the process to move towards a special general convention. The memorandum will be discussed in the party's Central Committee. As Nepal's senior population rises, questions emerge on their role in society, burden or asset. Stories from Siraha to national trends reveal the challenges and contributions of older citizens in our cover story for today, when we come back after this short break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World News Hour. As populations around the world grow older, an important question arises. Are senior citizens a burden on society or an untapped asset? Tonight, we explore the evidence from both global trends and national policy responses, including right here in Nepal. Sarah Sapsanama Rai explores more.
Around the globe, the share of older adults is rising rapidly as life expectancy increases and birth rates fall. In Asia, one of the world's fastest aging regions, governments are adjusting retirement policies and social systems to cope with a growing number of seniors and fewer working age adults, a shift that strains pension and healthcare systems. Nepal is experiencing this change as well. More than 10% of the population is now aged 60 and above as per 2021 census, a figure expected to rise further as fertility declines and people live longer.
मलाई एकछिन यति उभिँदाखेरि पनि मलाई अब जिउन ठेक्ला जस्तो भइरहेको छ अनि त्यो नसकेर आएको 32 सालदेखिको म एक्लै बसेको हो मेरो कोही छैन.
Under Nepal's Social Security and Protection of Senior Citizens Act, citizens aged 60 and over are legally recognized as senior citizens with rights to social security and special protection.
अब ज्येष्ठ नागरिकहरूलाई सधैँको लागि सम्मान चाहिएको छ उनीहरूलाई जिउने बास कपास नभएर संरक्षण खोजेर आएका ज्येष्ठ नागरिकहरू हुन्छन्. एक दिनको कार्यक्रमले केही पनि अर्थ रहँदैन. यसलाई चाहिँ अब सधैँ हेर्ने गरी त्यसमा राम्रो स्याहार सरकार उनीहरूले आफ्नो आश्रय राम्रो खोजेको बेला उपलब्ध गराउन सक्यो भने त्यही नै कार्यक्रमको उपलब्धित्व हुन्छ. उनीहरूलाई अब हामीले दैनिक जीवनयापनलाई खान हैन अनि लाउन सरकारले तोकेको मापदण्ड संसारको लगाउने कपडाहरू ओड्ने ओछ्याउने औषधि उपचार हैन स्याहार सरकार सरसफाई सबै व्यवस्था सरकारले गर्छ.
One key state provision is the monthly senior citizens allowance of 4,000 rupees for those aged 70 or above. While these measures are essential, they place increasing burden on public finances and the working population. But aging is not just about cost. Senior citizens contribute through caregiving, experience and community work, contributions often missing from state figures.
कर्णाली प्रदेशमा औषधि उपचार ज्येष्ठ नागरिकले पाउन सक्दैनन्. यदि छोराले नातिले उहाँलाई नहेरेको खण्डमा राज्यले पर्याप्त मात्रामा त्यहाँ ज्येष्ठ नागरिकहरूलाई त्यति सहयोग पुर्याउन सकेको छैन. स्थानीय निकायले पनि गर्न सकेको छैन.
With policies that support health, flexible work and lifelong learning, older adults can remain active contributors. The real challenge for Nepal and the world is not simply funding aging, but rethinking how seniors are valued in society.
Nepal, like much of the world, is facing a rapidly aging population, with over 10% of its citizens, nearly 3 million people aged above 60. This is raising both fiscal challenges and questions about how to ensure longer lives remain productive and dignified. Let's take a look at this infographics by Sarah Sapsanama Rai.
The World Health Organization projects that by 2050, over 2 billion people will be aged 60 and above, accounting for about 1/5 of the then global population. In developed economies, the shift is already pronounced. Across OECD countries, there are currently about 33% people aged 65 and over, a ratio projected to rise to 55% by 2050. Public expenditure in the region on pensions already consumes 8 to 9% of GDP and could reach 10% as healthcare and long-term care costs grow. Europe faces particular pressure. Countries such as Italy and Greece spend 15 to 16% of GDP on pensions, while France, Portugal, and Austria spend 13 to 14%, reflecting strong social protection systems. The US spends roughly 18 to 20% of GDP on Social Security, Medicare, and related programs for senior citizens. Asia is aging faster than any other region. Japan, with nearly 30% of its population aged 65 and above, spends about 9% of GDP on public pensions. In South Asia, aging is less visible but accelerating. The region has just over 10% of its population aged 60 plus, with spending on formal pensions still modest. India currently devotes under 5% of GDP to state-supported elderly programs, but is projected to face one of the world's largest senior populations, over 300 million, by mid-century. In Nepal, about 10.2% of the population, nearly 3 million people, are aged 60 and above. In the fiscal year 2024-25, the government allocated 213 billion Nepali rupees for social security, which was 11.5% of the total budget.
The condition of elderly people in Nepal is a mixed reality. As the population is growing, they face challenges like social isolation, inadequate healthcare, and economic hardships, despite government allowances. As the country marks Day dedicated to the senior citizens, our Siraha correspondent Shyam Kumar Thakur looks into the plight of an elderly couple in Mirchaiya. Rojina Rai brings it to you.
Prameswar Saha and Binda Devi Saha, an elderly couple from the southern part of Nepal, Siraha Mirchaiya, embody the struggle faced by many in their twilight years. Once daily wage workers, they now live childless, relying solely on the miserly state-rendered old age allowance. Each day brings new challenges. Their bodies weakened by age and illness struggle with even the simplest household task. Tears in Binda Devi's eyes speaks volumes. Their bodies can no longer support them, just like the age-old roof over their heads. Their fragile heart leaks during the rains, often forcing them to sleep on the floor. Life grows harder with each passing day, and without care or support, survival seems uncertain for the sexagenarians. At times, one lies on a bed while the other must sleep on the ground, with an unsafe and open toilet nearby. With little food and no basic necessities, their fight for survival is ongoing. Their story is a stark reminder to the government and the authorities concerned to extend more support to vulnerable elderly across the country. The struggle of Prameswar and Binda Devi are not isolated. Studies show that 35 to 65% of elderly people face neglect and mistreatment within their families and communities. The story reflects a deeper societal issue: how we care for those who can no longer care for themselves. It is a call for compassion, action, and dignity for our elders, a reminder of our shared responsibility to ensure that the most vulnerable among us are not forgotten.
With populations aging rapidly around the world, including here in Nepal, the challenges faced by senior citizens are becoming a growing public concern. To better understand these issues, we spoke directly with older adults about the main difficulties they encounter in daily life. Let's take a look at our public pulse today.
मेरो बुढी 60 सालमा बित्यो 60 सालमा बित्दाखेरि अनि बित्नुबित्तिकै म पनि अब 2-3 महिना बिरामी भएँ अनि मेरो बुहारीले बढाई अब मैले पाल्न सक्दैन तपाईलाई तपाईँ बिरामी धेरै हुन्छ मैले अब स्याहार सुसार गर्न सक्दैन होला भन्यो अब के गर्नु त भने
मैले आउनलाई चाहिँ किनभने मेरो बाउ आमा दाजुभाइ दिदी बहिनी कोही पनि छैन श्रीमान 8 वर्षमा बिहा गरिदिनु भयो बाउ आमाले उही जमानामा 20 वर्ष हुँदा श्रीमान बित्नुभयो है बितेपछि एउटा छोरो थियो छोरो पनि 5 वर्ष भइसक्यो बित्यो हेर्नु बितेपछि म त काम गरेर खाइरहेको थिएँ 81 गुणा धुनी बेथा निस्केर मैले काम गर्न नसक्ने भएँ मैले कसैलाई सोधिनँ एकजना डाक्टरलाई सोधेँ यो वृद्धाश्रम भन्ने कुरा राम्रो चाहिँ कहाँ होला त डाक्टर साहब भनेर सोद्धाखेरिमा पशुपतिमा भने अनि यहाँ आएर सोधे मिलनले सबै कुरा बताउनु भयो
ज्येष्ठ नागरिकहरूले खास गरेर अहिले एकल जीवन बिताइरहनु भएको छ उहाँहरूका सन्तानहरू विदेशिनु भएको छ
या पेसा व्यवसाय जागिरको सिलसिलामा चाहिँ घर बाहिर हुनुहुन्छ त्यो गर्दा घरमा उहाँहरूको निरस जीवन छ
कोही पनि छैन घरमा सबै हेर्छन् त हेर्छ उनीहरूले चाहिँ आएको यहाँ राखिदिए मलाई के गर्नु कोही पनि छैन मेरो बोरे पनि आगो हाल मान्छे छैन
दुर्गम ठाउँ अहिले त धेरै जाडो छ हिउँ परेको छैन त्यहाँको लागि मेन भनेको समस्या भनेको आवतजावत गर्न समस्या हो समयमा दुर्गम भत्ता के अरे सामाजिक सुरक्षा भत्ता नपाउने र परिवारबाट पनि केही ज्येष्ठ नागरिकहरू अपहेलित भएका छन्
मेरो श्रीमान बिर्नुभयो अनि मेरो बच्चा नभएर अनि आएको आफ्नो श्रीमान नभएर चाहिँ भर्नु लाग्नु मलाई
अब अहिले नेपालमा करिब 30 लाख जति ज्येष्ठ नागरिक छन् उहाँहरूलाई हामीले के दिन सकेका छौँ त अब भाषण मात्रै दिएर नहुने भयो रासन पनि दिएर मात्रै पनि नहुने भयो अब सेवा सुविधाको कुरो आएछ सेवा सुविधा गर्ने जनशक्तिहरू सबै विदेशिएका छन् त्यसले गर्दाखेरि रेमिटेन्सले मात्रै ज्येष्ठ नागरिकको भलो होला जस्तो लाग्दैन
Severe cold, dense fog and harsh winter winds have disrupted daily life across southern Nepal's Tarai region, affecting districts such as Kapilvastu, Rautahat and Mahottari. Over the past week, residents of these areas have faced significant challenges as plunging temperatures, thick morning fog, frost and strong winds make it difficult for people to leave their homes. Children, the elderly, daily wage workers and economically vulnerable communities are among the hardest hit. Local farmers report that extreme cold is hindering work in the fields, with winter crops, pulses and vegetables at risk of rotting, while livestock and poultry are also affected. Laborers struggle to carry out routine tasks and movement in both urban and rural areas has slowed. Transportation has been impacted as dense fog reduces visibility, causing delays for vehicles. Meanwhile, local markets report rising sales of woolen clothing as residents try to cope with the harsh winter conditions. The government of Nepal is preparing to launch new tender processes for long-stalled infrastructure projects, including irrigation schemes, roads and bridges, which have remained incomplete for years. The Ministry of Physical Infrastructure and Transport has sent a letter of agreement to the Ministry of Finance to secure budget approval for the projects. The ministry confirmed that 40 previously halted projects have already had their contracts terminated and are ready for re-tendering. According to the ministry, about 250 road projects under the Department of Roads and 33 irrigation projects under the Department of Irrigation have been stalled for several years. The government has stated that all such stalled projects will undergo contract termination and new tendering, aiming to ensure timely completion and efficient use of public funds. A tourist hub of Sauraha in south-central Nepal comes alive as the 19th Chitwan Elephant and Tourism Festival begins, celebrating the coexistence between humans, elephants and nature. The three-day event features cultural shows, elephant activities and safaris while promoting tourism and conservation. Rojina Rai with our local correspondent Rajendra Acharya explained more about the festival.
Nestled in the heart of Nepal's tourism map, Sauraha in central south is once again alive with the celebration as the 19th Chitwan Elephant and Tourism Festival starts. The three-day Conservation Harmony Festival held annually to promote tourism highlights the unique relationship between humans, elephant and nature. Nearly 80 elephants are taking part in the celebrations.
Chitwan Elephant Festival, Tourism Festival is most important to Nepal for tourism promotion. Animal friendly, so very nice to tourism promotion in Nepal, in animal friendly, nature friendly, very beautiful, so promote the tourism in Nepal.
The event is also important to bring government together and private sectors, showcasing Chitwan, Heart of the Jungle, as a premier safari destination in the country. To make the festival celebratory, variety of attractions like elephant decoration, elephant health camps, cultural pageantries, educational programs on elephants' daily life, and traditional elephant worship are featured. Visitors can experience elephant and jeep safaris, canoe safaris up close with Chitwan's rich wildlife and natural beauty. Around 150 hotels and over 90 restaurants are all set to welcome travelers from around the world.
This is an amazing festival. This is so beautiful. I'm so happy to be here. Nepalese people are amazingly friendly. Chitwan people are incredibly sophisticated and friendly too. It is such a nice festival and it is such a nice opportunity to be part of this culture.
The festival, being organized from the last 20 years, has proved significant in boosting tourism by up to 30% each year. Nearly 300,000 tourists visit Chitwan annually. The Elephant and Tourism Festival in Sauraha long stand as a symbol of Nepal's sustainable tourism, cultural heritage, and wildlife conservation.
International news coming up next. For now, a quick look at our headlines once again. Former Nepal Army Lieutenant General Balananda Sharma sworn in as the country's new Foreign Affairs Minister. Cabinet expands to 15 members. Nepal steps up political dialogue ahead of parliamentary elections. Government spokesperson's effort aimed at ensuring free and fair polls. Nepal marks 5th National Senior Citizens Day. Rising elderly population in Nepal sparks debate on perks, social security, and value of their contributions. U.S. military targets Islamic State in northwest Nigeria. Joint operation aims to curb militant activities along Niger border. Former Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak found guilty in corruption trial. 25 charges linked to $569 million. And cricket coach Jagat Bahadur Tamata appointed to the National Sports Council. 4 other sports experts serving alongside for a 4-year term. A special counsel team has requested a 10-year prison sentence for former South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol over charges including obstructing an arrest. The Seoul Central District Court held a sentencing hearing Friday, with the counsel seeking 5 years for obstructing the arrest, 3 years for violating cabinet members' rights during an emergency martial law meeting, and 2 years for allegedly submitting a false martial law declaration. The former president is accused of blocking an arrest warrant and violating cabinet members' constitutional rights by rushing a meeting before the martial law declaration, preventing some from attending. Yoon's legal team asked to delay the trial, but the court rejected the request. The verdict is scheduled for January 16. Heavy rain has triggered flash flooding across parts of Southern California, causing damage on the eve of Christmas. Emergency crews responded in the mountain community of Wrightwood, where floodwaters and debris engulfed cars and inundated streets. Authorities also issued warnings of possible debris flows, particularly in areas recently scarred by wildfires, where soil is more vulnerable to landslides. Further north, strong storms brought down trees and blocked roads in San Francisco. Officials are urging residents to remain cautious as unstable weather conditions continue to affect the region. Countries hit by the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami today remembered the devastating disaster that claimed tens of thousands of lives across the region. Marking the 21st anniversary, nations are paying tribute to those lost while highlighting the importance of disaster preparedness and community resilience. In Thailand, southern provinces observed the anniversary with multi-religious remembrance services across Phuket, Phang Nga and Krabi. At Phuket's Mai Khao Cemetery, families of victims from the 43 nations gathered to lay flowers and perform Buddhist, Christian and Islamic rites. In Sri Lanka, the anniversary was commemorated as National Safety Day to emphasize disaster preparedness and public awareness. The main ceremony took place in Peralia, Gale, one of the hardest hit areas, with 2-minute silence observed nationwide. Business news and sports update after the short break.
China has firmly opposed the United States' decision to impose additional Section 301 tariffs on Chinese semiconductor products and has lodged a formal representation with the U.S., China's Ministry of Commerce spokeswoman said. Earlier on Tuesday, the Office of the United States Trade Representative announced the results of its Section 301 investigation into Chinese semiconductor policies, stating it will impose additional tariffs on certain Chinese semiconductor products. The initial tariff rate is set at 0% and is scheduled to increase after an 18-month period in June 2027. In response to a media query on U.S. announcement, He Yongxian, the spokeswoman, said China has taken note of the relevant developments and has lodged representations with the U.S. through the China-U.S. Economic and Trade Consultation Mechanism. China urged the United States to amend its practices and revoke the related measures, and the spokeswoman said China is willing to work with the U.S. through dialogue and consultation to resolve respective concerns. French farmers lift A63 roadblock near Bordeaux after 12 days of protest. The Farmers' Union Coordination announced on Friday the removal of its blockade on the A63 motorway near Cestas, ending nearly 2 weeks of demonstrations against the government's handling of lumpy skin disease in the cattle. The protest, which began on December 14, had made the site a symbolic flashpoint, disrupting traffic between Bordeaux and Spain. In a statement, the union criticized the government's silence and contempt toward agricultural concerns and hinted at possible new actions in January if demands are ignored. While protesters dismantle their camps and clear the motorway, unrest continues in other southwestern regions, with farmers demanding expanded vaccination programs and opposing compulsory herd culling, highlighting broader grievances over agricultural policy, rural economies, and EU trade decisions. Syria's central bank announced that it will begin replacing the country's national currency with a revamped version starting January 1, 2026, in an effort to stabilize the economy following the fall of former leader Bashar al-Assad last year. Central Bank Governor Abdelkader Huzriye said the currency swap will involve exchanging old banknotes for new ones, with the redesigned notes set to remove 2 zeros from the currency. Authorities plan to carry out the process in an orderly manner and will provide further details on implementation in the coming days. The Syrian pound has been severely weakened by years of conflict, sanctions, and economic isolation, and the currency swap is part of broader efforts by Damascus to relaunch state institutions and restore economic stability. The Syrian central bank emphasized that the measure aims to strengthen the national currency and facilitate smoother financial transactions for businesses and citizens. Residents of La Manisa in northwest of Spain celebrated a €468 million windfall after winning the El Gordo Christmas lottery on December 22, bringing a welcome boost to the region months after wildfires destroyed parts of the surrounding area. A local lottery shop owner reflected on the impact of the El Gordo win for her community. She noted that many houses had been destroyed by wildfires across nearby villages and expressed hope that the €468 million lottery prize would provide a much-needed economic boost, benefiting not only La Baniza but the wider province as well. In Spain, it is common for families, businesses and sports clubs to buy multiple tickets with the same number and share any winnings among the members. The president of La Baniza FC had been playing the same number for 17 years before finally hitting the jackpot this year. As school and work wrap up, crowds fill Tokyo's many bustling arcade halls, not to battle it out in fighting games, but to snag plush toys from claw machines. In one of these gaming meccas in the Japanese capital's Ikebukuro district, aisles of crane games stretch as far as the eye can see. The crown jewels of the arcade industry, they occupy the building's first 2 floors, relegating video games to the basement and upper levels. Some 80% of the 22,000 arcades Japan had in 1989 have shut down, but revenues have held up thanks to claw machines, according to the Japan Amusement Industry Association. Their share of revenue has climbed since 1993 from 20% to more than 60%.
Now the sports update. The 9th NB Women's and Men's Club Volleyball Championship kicked off today in Nepal's capital, Kathmandu, with departmental teams making strong starts in the women's category. In Group A, action at the National Sports Council's covered hall in Tripureshwar, the Tribhuvan Army Club defeated Everest Volleyball Club 3-0 in straight sets. Army won the first set 25-17, followed by 25-14 in the second and 25-23 in the third, securing a convincing victory. Meanwhile, Nepal Police Club also began their campaign with a 3-0 win over Sudur Pashchim Province. Police dominated the match, winning the first set 25-10, the second 25-6 and the third 25-11. The tournament, organized by the Nepal Volleyball Association, features a total of 20 teams, 12 men's teams and 8 women's teams. The championship will continue until January 3rd. Record Africa Cup of Nations winners Egypt is taking on South Africa in a headline group clash at the 2025 Confederation of African Football Tournament. Mohamed Salah penalty has given 10-man Pharaohs lead against Bafana Bafana. Egypt entered the match as one of the top favorites to win the competition, despite the preparations being dominated by a public dispute involving star forward Mohamed Salah and his club Liverpool. The controversy has drawn attention away from the team, but the Pharaohs remain confident of adding to their record AFCON titles. South Africa, known as Bafana Bafana, were a major force in African football in the late 1990s and early 2000s, but have struggled for consistency in recent years. An opening victory over Egypt would send a strong message of intent from South Africa and reshape the balance of power in the group. This encounter is expected to be one of the standout matches of the early stages of the tournament, as two traditional heavyweights look to set the tone for their AFCON 2025 campaigns. Time now for a quick look at the weather, first from across Nepal and then from around the world. Before we wrap up, let's take a look into the headlines once again. Former Nepal Army Lieutenant General Balananda Sharma sworn in as the country's new Foreign Affairs Minister. Cabinet expands to 15 members. Nepal steps up political dialogue ahead of parliamentary elections. Government spokesperson's effort aimed at ensuring free and fair polls. Nepal marks 5th National Senior Citizens Day. Rising elderly population in Nepal sparks debate on perks, social security, and value of their contributions. U.S. military targets Islamic State in northwest Nigeria. Joint operation aims to curb militant activities along the Niger border. Former Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak found guilty in corruption trial. 25 charges linked to $569 million corruption case. And cricket coach Jagat Bahadur Tamata appointed to the National Sports Council. 4 other sports experts serving alongside for a 4-year term. That is all for now from NTV World News Hour for now. Do join us through our social media and also get the latest updates from our website at nepaltelevision.com. This is Bijata Bhandari. Thank you for staying with us. Good night.